Nobody could have ever predicted it would spread so fast. And once exposed, you never stood a chance. It got into your blood, burrowed into your brain. Countless lives.
We're both gonna die!
Altered in an instant. But that's ancient history. We were just getting warmed up.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 5th episodic discussion. We have quite the number of guests for you guys here. We have like 2 additional guests, as well as 2 people from the Bio Devils podcast. Unfortunately, James could not make it because he said that he's not really a Resident Evil aficionado, which I can understand. But for this discussion, I grabbed as many people as I could, and I would like for them to introduce themselves with our first special guest, Mr. Brian Word.
Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Brian Word, aka Silver Angel, aka Word of the Day, aka Word to Mother, aka Word Up.
What?
Educate the dictionary.
There's a lot of AKAs there, a lot of aliases going on right now.
I couldn't help myself.
But we're going to introduce our second special guest, which is Mr. Levy the Amish Man. Introduce yourself, Levy.
Yo, I am Levy the Oshman, aka Booty Overlord, aka Black Jesus.
Black You know, I'm not
AKA the second coming of man.
I'm not gonna go there. I'm going to. I'm going to introduce the people on the Bio Devils podcast now. And we first have Mr. Brendan Williams, a.k.a. Mr. Asshole, a.k.a. Mr. Trollface, a.k.a. Mr. Motherfucker. Introduce yourself, please.
I am Brandon, aka Arcane Ranger 504, aka Renegade Likes a Panda Lee, aka You Suck.
Find him on X video.
Yeah, find him on X videos. I'm sure that'll be a riot. We also have to introduce our final Bio Devils podcast member, which is none other than Mr. Dominic. Introduce yourself, sir.
How's it going, guys? I am going to break the trend and not go by AKAs and aliases and whatnot. So, yeah.
Aw, you pussy.
I could do that one. Dominic, aka Bio Double Dom, aka the weirdest samurai warrior weeb.
And your buddy did it for
AKA
you.
the pussy that doesn't want an alias, so we're going to give him one anyway.
Yeah, his friend did it for him. So, what a real guy that is.
I know, right?
What a friend.
Yeah, what a friend indeed. So, we're going to start off the episodic discussion hot. We're going to jump into the first question we have because we have almost at least 29 of them. So, we're going to describe our personal history with Resident Evil Biohazard. So, who wants to go first?
I can go first if
I
that's
think
okay.
Dom should go first.
Alright, go ahead, Dom.
So, with me personally, I played a little bit of RE5. I never knew what Resident Evil was, but I sucked at it so bad that my friends wouldn't let me touch it. Years on later, I actually played through Resident Evil 4, played it from start to finish, and I remember my friend Nathan, like, after we beat it, he was like, we're not playing this anymore, and I'm like, dude, I have to play it, I have to unlock it, I have to unlock everything in the game. It was like almost a religion for me at that point. I ended up going back to the classics later on. I think I started them in 2009, and while I didn't like them initially, I think I got used to them because I did play games like Onimusha and Devil May Cry, which had like fixed camera angles and whatnot, so it was something I had to get used to. And right now, to this day, I think Resident Evil 3 is probably my favorite game within the franchise. And outside of that, I've played the Resident Evil remake. I have yet to complete Resident Evil 0. I've played the cancerous Operation Raccoon City, and I don't want to keep on going with what I have in my Resident Evil history, so I'll let somebody else go.
All right, Brian, talk about your personal history with Resident Evil.
All right, mine's a little bit funny. My personal history of Resident Evil was that I originally found out about it when I was like a kid in elementary school. I was about 5 or 6, and I went to visit my cousin, and me and my sister were watching him play a game, and it was Resident Evil 2. And as a kid, when you got a wild imagination, stuff like zombies is gonna freak you out somewhat. And then later, I found out that he had Code Veronica. I saw a little bit of it, but didn't get too much into it. And time goes by. I'm about 13, 14. Got Resident Evil 4. I started playing it. I was like, okay, this seems cool. And got my butt kicked a number of times until I finally figured out what to do. And I also played and have beaten Resident Evil 5. I have Resident Evil 6, played through that. I did try Operation Raccoon City, which, honestly, Raccoon City, it had a good idea, but the execution left a lot to be desired. So
I agree with that.
I definitely agree.
Yep.
So now it's just like finding out that Resident Evil 7 is a thing. I'm just like, how are they possibly going to screw up this story now? And yeah, Umbrella Corps, I'm pretty much indifferent to it.
All right, so Levy, do you want to describe your history with Resident Evil?
I'm probably gonna be the one that's gonna be chastised, but first one I ever played was the 4th one.
You monster.
Let me explain. Apparently, I didn't really have much of a collection because I didn't have a PS2 until I was in, I think it was either out of high school or during high school, but my brother had a Wii, and he had the Wii version of it. So it's later on, it's like, okay, it's a really good game. I'm going to try the others because I had a PSP, and also PlayStation 4 had the classics, so I tried the classics. I actually liked the classics a little bit more than 4. However, as soon as I found out they were making 5, I decided to try it out. It was okay, it was good. And then I found out they were making 6, and I'm like, what the fuck have they done? Plus, I actually tried out Resident Evil Revelations and Revelations 2. I love the first Revelations. However, when they got to the second one, I was a bit dumbfounded because they copied the same thing that Telltale has done.
Oh, you mean the episodic format?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was a good game. It was a good game, but if it wasn't for that damn episodic content, I would have. I don't know.
The only clear difference I think was that it came out faster. Like it came out each week, so it wasn't like it took an entire month for each
that's
game
the
to
question
come
then.
out.
What was the point of doing that then? Just release it on the final week, like on disc.
Yeah, I think they should have just released it all on one disc, and it definitely would have been received better than what we got. Instead of just saying, we're going to break the game up, we're going to judge each episode, then we're going to give you all the goodies later. I'm not sure if they gave you raid mode last or not.
No, it was included. It was included. If you got the first episode, you still got it. I remember I picked up the first episode just to try it out.
Okay,
and then I waited for the
thank God.
physical version.
I was like, thank God. I thought that they gave it to you last minute or whatever. Or they did something where it was like, you get raid mode, but you don't get to play it online with people. It was some weird stipulation going on.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think
that might be
I think the only one I haven't played, but I didn't play Operation Raccoon City when it first came out because I heard from my friends it was terrible.
Oh yeah, it's.
And then all of a sudden I found it for dirt cheap, and I'm like, okay, I can see why.
I had no interest in ORC, so that's how I felt about it. Like zero interest.
I will agree with what Brian said. It had a good idea, but it was poorly executed.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the funny thing is when I played it, it was trying its hardest to be a mix of Gears of War and Call of Duty.
With Resident.
Yeah, with Resident Evil. Like I said, it could have worked if they had fine-tuned it a bit more, but they didn't. And then on top of that, like, I tried the online multiplayer, and it was like, I'm just in this random match with a bunch of random people, and it only took like 5 minutes for everybody that was there just suddenly started piling up on the scores, and I'm like the only pleb who's just trying to shoot and kill everybody and everything that's trying to attack me. But then it's like minutes later the game is over and I'm like, I mean, I know I was shooting stuff, but it's like I tried to shoot at the other guys that had the guns, and while I'm fairly sure that I hit them, it just seemed like they had some sort of magical immunity or something. Like the game just seems so shoddy.
Yeah, I can definitely.
There's some unbalanced. There were some poor balancing issues, especially with the I think it was the assault class.
Oh yeah.
Pretty much.
But definitely, that before you cross off question number 1, I don't think Brandon went, but I'm gonna go up first because mine is real quick. Basically,
Well, I was just asking, just make sure until everyone's finished.
Yeah, until everyone's finished, you can cross it off. But
Gotcha.
mine's is real quick. My history of Resident Evil pretty much started with, I believe, the first game. I saw the first game, of course. I was a child back then, and I was scared shitless of games like this, so I really didn't bother to try and pick it up and play it. As soon as I got older, I think the first Resident Evil game I officially got was Code Veronica X. So I played the crap out of that, and it was pretty good. Unfortunately, the guy who sold me this disc managed to bork it to the point where you can get all the way to the point where you play with Claire, and you crash into the plane in Antarctica, or that Antarctica base with Steve. As soon as you get to that point, the game cuts off completely.
That sucks.
So it was a really good game, but I felt like I was missing the entire second half. So later on, I played a few Resident Evil games later on, which was Resident Evil 3. I liked the crap out of that. I went ahead and I picked up Code Veronica again, and I thought it was an amazing experience. And then I just caught on the train from there. I thought that a lot of the games that I played from the classic era were good, but then when we started getting into the modern era, that's when the creativity started to die down severely.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at you, Resident Evil 6. I am looking at you. My eye is on the trigger.
That big stink eye.
Yes.
Cut it some slack. At least it's not as bad as Operation Raccoon City.
I have not played that one, unfortunately, but we do talk about ORC later. So I guess we can get to that a little bit later on. So, Brandon, what is your experience with Resident Evil, good sir?
Well, this is back before I even knew what the Resident Evil was by title. A friend of my mom's came by to our place like years ago, back when before I even knew Democrat was as well. And he brought this big case of games, and I played them day in, day out. And that's how I got into Devil May Cry, of course. And I saw this game, I think it was Resident Evil. Wait, it was Resident Evil 3 before. I didn't even read the title, so I popped the disc in, and I got lost fairly easily. Yeah, I had no idea what I was doing. I see all these zombies. I pop a cap in one of them, and then after that, I just got bored and I left. But then I went on to Dino Crisis 2. So, like, years later, I discovered more about Resident Evil, looked stuff up, and when I picked up Resident Evil 3, or I seen some video of Resident Evil 3, I immediately remember it because I had, I spent a good amount of time on it. I said, oh yeah, I remember this game. And then since then, I've been more invested in Resident Evil. So I picked up 5, then I picked up 4 later down the line. Then I got 2, 3, Revelations 1, and so forth, and so on. And then I got invested into the lore. I got really intrigued by it. That was really what got me hooked into Resident Evil, not the whole scare factor. It was the story.
Yeah, there's still a lot of lore there to be discovered for people that are interested, even though later on down the timeline it starts to get nonsensical. But question number 2 is a bit of a doozy, so we're going to jump right into that. How do you feel about Resident Evil 6, and if you could take any positive influence, what could you have personally done to make the game better? Who wants to take this one first?
How I felt about it? Personally, the only good campaign was Leon's.
I disagree, honestly.
The only good one, in my opinion, was Leon's. Everyone else's was kind of terrible. But I felt like it just took the fan base, grabbed it by its balls, and just dragged it to the dirt.
I didn't mind Leon's campaign, and I didn't mind Chris's campaign. I know a lot of people hate Chris's campaign, but I didn't mind those two. The Jake campaign was completely awful. I'm sorry. Those vehicle segments, god awful.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing I expected from Resident Evil. Oh, cars! Not zombies, cars!
Well, look at, hey man, you remember, you have car racing segments, you got transforming bioweapon, and your explosions. Transformers 5 confirmed.
Yeah, someone has been watching too many Michael Bay movies. They're like, oh, let's take that.
I found it like completely comical at that part where like Leon's on the street and the little airplane crashes into the street, and then they say like, "Oh, run!" and then all the cars and the airplanes and everything else is just blowing up in the background. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Yep, this is a Michael Bay movie. It's confirmed.
Told you.
But I don't know. I kind of wish that they would have worked on other characters. Like there was a character that we hadn't even heard of in that.
Which character is that?
I don't think we all heard of who Jake was.
Are you?
Oh yeah.
Well, they sort of just, well, in my opinion, like, I'm not sure if everyone will agree, but I think they kind of shoehorned Jake in there because they knew they had to fill that gap with, like, a Wesker being gone.
Actually, no, I actually agree with that.
I agree, too. No, the same feeling I have, the same, like, way I feel about another particular character in another series, but I'm pretty sure Don knows what I'm talking about.
Are we talking about Devil May Cry?
Yep.
And Virgil?
Yeah.
But I will say that, yeah, there were a lot of things about that game that I just really did not like. I guess if I were to take a positive, I think that they shouldn't have did that false advertising where they said that the horror's coming back or the horror's alive. I think that if it was going to be a dramatic horror in a sense of a video game, it should have stuck more to that formula of, okay, yeah, we're trying to make things dramatic and over the top a little bit, surely, but I think I would have kept it just a bit more grounded so it makes sense. Instead of just having segments where there's cars crashing in the street and blowing up in like a big stupor of bullshit.
But Ren, it did bring back the horror back. It was horrible.
Oh, that's a good one, actually.
Like to me, Leon's campaign was the only one where it's like they definitely could have cashed in on the horror if they had done a bit more to make it scary, or at least a bit more creepy. Because like when you start it off, it's like the whole place is abandoned. You see bodies everywhere, and you're just like, okay, how long before all this hits the fan? And it's like there's those few times where it just picks up, and you're just like, crap, gotta move. And then, you know, there was a thing with the graveyard and the church, which definitely fit as far as like Resident Evil style in terms of creepiness, because you're thinking to yourself, okay, I'm in a graveyard, can't see nothing, so it's like, how can I possibly react quick enough, because I can't see anything while I'm outside. And then you get to the church and it's like, okay, fair enough. And then there's a catacombs and it's just like, you know, this is just more irritating than creepy. And then the rest of it is just in a big city in China, and it's almost like post-apocalyptic China when that virus just hits. Yeah. And then from there it's just ridiculous.
That's when the game definitely ramps up. I think they should have kept that tension, but like I said, I think it should have been just a little bit more grounded, because some of the stuff that happens in that game is just as nonsensical as the stuff that was happening in 5. You got Chris picking up a giant-ass snake and throwing it like it's nothing. You got Leon doing this giant basketball jump with like a lightning rod in his hand and stabbing the final boss with it. It's ridiculous.
I think that's what the Resident Evil series was kind of known for being a bit silly, but at the same time keeping its elements of horror.
Yeah, but this is way out.
That just took I think the people who wrote it's like, oh, horror. What can we do? Make it horror. Oh, let's just make Leon do a jump and stab the boss's eye.
That was clown shoes, seriously. So I guess to improve it, I would just make it a bit more grounded.
That's actually what I was going to say. Or my positive thing was stick with actual horror. I mean, Even
it's so
if Amnesia: The Dark Descent can do better than you did something wrong.
like to me where they do the thing where they give characters who are at least trained to handle certain situations. I mean, like Leon's a former cop, Chris was in the military, and it's like for them to have like the actiony moves they have, where it's like they punch or kick something to oblivion. That to me wasn't bothersome. But it's like you said, when they do the thing where it's like Chris has that super strength from whatever steroids he's on, or
Hey,
Leon
that's a BSA for you.
yeah, or Leon doing the super athletic stuff when they're still human. Like it took Wesker injecting himself with a virus to be superhuman, and yet it's like you're telling me years of training and exercise is all it took for these guys to be almost as strong and athletic as Wesker after the virus.
Yeah, that just tells you that there's just these weird parallels going on between superhuman and actual humanity, like human traits, and it just doesn't make sense anymore at this point.
Being human's overrated.
That is something I want to bring up later when we talk about a particular game.
But if everyone's finished on question number 2, we can move
Oh,
on.
I didn't win.
Me
yet.
and Brandon didn't go.
Oh, go ahead, guys.
You can go first,
Go
Brandon.
ahead. Well,
Oh, you-
as for the story, it was good until chapter 3 or chapter 3-ish.
Whose
I
campaign
enjoyed
was it?
chapter all. This applies to everyone. Once you hit
Okay.
China, it went downhill from there. The whole China segment was just it should have been cut out of the game. Honestly, it didn't add anything. It just made the game more ridiculous than it should be.
That's when
Yeah.
I do think that they tried to ramp up the tension. Like everything was sort of slow and methodical. And I guess you can say like for Jake that really didn't count because the game was already ramped up to 11 when you got to those ridiculous vehicle segments. So it was a lot more faster paced in that one, but it still had a certain style to it that you could kind of see that they were doing. Like you're being pursued by this giant big behemoth. You got to do everything you can to avoid him. So I could kind of see that style was kind of lost with the China segment because afterwards it's like they tried to throw all these ideas together to make the game as tense as possible, and some of them just fall flat on its face.
One
go
of the things
ahead,
I like
Brandon.
about 6 is the fact that you have multiple characters.
Yeah.
But the thing I didn't like is they didn't return old characters like freaking Clara. But of course that happened later down the line with Revelations, which is before 6. So at least we got that. But as for controls in Resident Evil 6, at least they were better than 5 in the previous games, but at the same time they're worse. Like the whole running thing with the camera up the character's booty, as long as it's on Helena or Ada's, I'm fine with that, but it's really annoying.
That was patched, but you still have to control the analog stick to keep it steady.
Yeah, I keep it steady somewhere, alright?
You know what they could have done? You know what they could have done? Instead of doing a thing where it's like left stick, you can just run in any direction, but the camera doesn't change. I think they should have kept it strictly over the shoulder.
Now under your butt.
I mean, over the shoulder, under the butt. Just kept the camera behind the back, but don't just have them just, when they turn left, but the camera doesn't follow. Cause like to me that felt too wonky.
Yeah, I agree. And no, Resident Evil 6 made me nauseous in a way. I made my head hurt, and I stopped playing it for a while.
Yeah, like it's one of those games where you could definitely have fun with it with a friend. Like me and one of my good friends before he moved out of state, we played through Leon and Helena's campaign, and it's like we know that for the most part the game is just like, man, but we could still have fun with it. Like
That is true.
yeah, like when you look at how you set up the options for the campaign, like network setting and infinite ammo or whatever. He was the one that pointed this out to me, where it's like when you see the way the characters are sort of sitting or standing away from each other, it's like why is it that Leon and Helena or Chris and Jay or Chris and Piers, why do they look like they just broke up with each other?
But Hey, Dom, what is your input on this?
So with Resident Evil 6, I didn't think it was as bad as Operation Raccoon City because I played that earlier, I think a few months earlier before I played Resident Evil 6. I didn't buy Resident Evil 6 at launch. I ended up renting it on launch week. So with Leon's campaign, I thought it was meh. I really wish they would have had like backtracking and things of that nature. It really would have felt a little bit more like Resident Evil 2 if they just kept it in that town or city that it was taking place in. And could you imagine if like the university that you start off at was kind of like maybe like the RPD, so to speak?
Yeah.
Like another Raccoon City, basically.
Yeah,
Or
almost.
ironically, they said that in the game.
Which definitely would have been fine, but it just went to like too many different places.
I guess you
Yeah,
say
that-
they tried this with Tall Oaks, but at the same time, it just didn't feel as.
And, Tall Oaks should have been the base story for Leon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And then you look at someone like Ada's campaign. Why weren't all the campaigns set up like this where, when you're playing single player, you're on your own. But if you play co-op, you get like this generic character that follows you around or whatever.
No, I like Ada's story a lot. She's my favorite.
But, that's just my personal opinion on that. Then you move on over to Chris. And that part in Chris's campaign, this is like early on in his campaign, you go into like this mansion and all the Chrysalis monsters or whatever in the mansion. I really wish they would have, had Chris's campaign in that mansion. I wish that mansion was like bigger and like maybe they would have had you and
Oh,
Pierce
so you want
split
a
up.
throwback? Like
Yeah,
want
more or
some
less. Yeah, like
throwbacks.
Yeah,
like
an
maybe
entire
it starts-
chapter devoted to that, because that throwback would have definitely called home to a lot of fans than some of the ones that they did previously. I think the only one I could really think of that they tried to throw back was Lost in Nightmares, and they also did the same thing with Code Veronica, where they had the replica mansion. But
Yeah.
just imagine, like, some old haunts going on in a mansion, and that's an entire chapter. That'd be pretty great. Because there would be things that you would be expecting from the first Resident Evil, but it just doesn't happen or whatever, and they could put a little twist on that.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
the thing
like I
with
was-
it. Like the thing where the dog jumps through the window after you go down that one hallway back in one, is like you could go around the corner and you could expect the dog to jump through, but then it's like, oh hey, ain't no dog. But then it's like you open the door and there's just a monster right there in your face.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They could have done something like that.
Well, I think in Remake,
Like-
they try to tease the idea when you go through the dog hallway the first time, the dog doesn't fully jump through the window, it just sort of knocks his head against it.
Yeah.
And then it comes through when you come back. So I like little stuff like that, really. Just expect the unexpected.
Like as far as like that goes, like I really wish his campaign took place in that entire mansion. Like maybe they would have started you off and I don't know about anybody else here, but I really wish that the Resident Evil games weren't chapter based personally.
Yeah. When did they start using the chapters?
4.
Four.
I mean, four. I mean,
4.
sorry.
Yeah. I really wish that they would have led you up, like, maybe it starts off as an action-based game, but then you go up into this mansion, and all of a sudden it's a horror game, and you gotta split up with your teammates, and then you see them dying off one by one, like they were talking about pre-launch or whatever, how that was the quote-unquote
that would've been
horror
great.
for Chris.
Well, then again, the chapter bases weren't bad. Like for 4, it wasn't bad.
For 4, it wasn't bad, but I think,
I think
like,
later on with 5, it got worse.
I think
Yeah,
I
like-
did fine.
Like I think with 4, there was a sense of urgency in that you had to. Is that it wasn't just. Excuse me. It wasn't just trying to survive a night until help comes. It was the fact that you had a mission and a goal to get to. Because
and
it's like you got the president's daughter. She's been kidnapped. She's got all this stuff that you got to go through surrounding her just to get her. Which
Well,
Yeah,
Resident
like,
Evil 4, we're gonna touch on that pretty soon, but
I mean,
Wait.
you know, not to mention that that game had a little bit of backtracking. Like even if it was chapter based, I would hope there's either a little bit more like RE4 or even the first Revelations where there was segments of backtracking to kind of throw back to previous games.
yeah.
And then, of course, lastly, we have Jake's campaign, which I think everyone's covered how insane that is.
it's terrible.
So,
I don't. Truth be told, I didn't mind it too much.
I just didn't
trying
care
to
for it
do
all.
stuff.
I didn't care for it either.
I didn't
But
mind
yeah.
it too much.
The action was all right, but it was too much of a action zombie movie.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Minus the zombies.
yeah. So we need to move on to question number 3, which is very interesting. Worst Resident Evil game in your opinion?
Operation
Operation
Raccoon
Raccoon
City.
Raccoon
City.
City.
No,
No
Ninja
question.
Gaiden, no, Gaiden, Resident Evil Gaiden.
Oh yeah,
really-
that is true. That is Resident Evil Gaiden is considered to be the worst one by most fans.
Do tell.
Isn't that the one where Leon apparently is the person carrying the virus?
Yeah, he apparently is a creature.
Yeah, and you get to play
Oh,
as
yeah.
Barry and whatnot. Do you know the game that inspired Resident Evil, Sweet Home?
I've heard of it, but I have not played it.
It's basically a survival horror RPG. They basically try to turn Resident Evil that with Resident Evil Gaiden.
Jesus Christ, that sounds awful. I haven't played Gaiden, and I haven't played Operation Raccoon City, so I'm merely gonna say Resident Evil 6 because, from a technical aspect, they made the game too bloated. It made it seem like it was rushed at the same time because I was reading up on some developer notes and they were saying that how they didn't want to go over budget, so some of their aspects.
you definitely didn't play Operation Raccoon City.
Well,
You don't-
well, it's the worst one that I played so far. Until I played Operation Raccoon City, that is by far the worst Resident Evil because, like I said, I was reading some developer assets and they said that some assets were lost because they didn't want to go over budget. So it kind of makes me think, what were those ideas and how could they have been implemented to be positive? Other than that, it was just a technical failure on every level, and I think that some fun could be had from it, but at the same time, I think that that's when the mainline series really started to go downhill from there.
I mean, if you don't mind me bringing up the fact that just Operation Raccoon City was, they promised like all these things, like, oh, it's going to be an open world game, you can kill survivors, and none of that stuff that they promised
You're working for
ever
Umbrella.
happened.
I'll say this,
You know,
from the
so-
first trailer of Operation Raccoon City, I was already not interested because it was this tactical squad shooter that they advertised it with. And
Yeah,
it
it's
had
like-
just the shittiest music I ever fucking heard. I was like, oh my god, why?
Yeah. Yeah,
you know,
but
everything in that trailer never happens in the game.
but
You
then
never
again, they were
see
like,
Leon get hunted down or anything like that, and I really wish that was in the game because it probably would have made it better.
yeah, they showed us like, oh, you get to hunt Leon. It's like, oh, you get to work for Umbrella. It's like, it sounds
cool in
it sounds
concept.
awesome that you could play as the villain, but nope, there's none of that.
And
No.
that would also make sense as to why it's a little bit more action-based in that sense.
Yeah,
but
I
it's
guess, because it's like, if it's a squad-based shooter, you're initially going to expect, oh, it's not going to play like traditional Resident Evil, but at the same time, you expect it to at least be good. You expect to at least be getting a good product. In return, a lot of people are saying that they got complete horseshit.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Slightly falsely advertised as well.
Yeah. How do you feel about this, Brandon? Worst Resident Evil game? Operation Raccoon City?
Gaiden.
Gaiden? Oh, yeah, Gaiden.
Yeah, he said Gaiden already, and Dom said Operation Raccoon City. I said it too. Whoop up.
I was
Brian.
making sure because the fact of Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City stench was overpowering what Brandon said. I just wanted to clarify that for sure.
Yeah.
So we have question number 4. This is a bit of a doozy, but I'm going to start off here. Before Resident Evil 2 was officially in development, there was a game called Biohazard Dash, set 3 years after the original, taking place in the destroyed Spencer Mansion, with plant-like monsters known as Plant 42. When this
43?
43.
43, I
was
mean, I'm
the
so used to
boss.
Plant 42, it's like, god damn it. So, this is Plant 43 we're talking about. When this project was scrapped in favor
Plant 69.
of... Plant fuck up, Brandon.
Fuck
God
off.
Okay.
when this project was scrapped,
I meant to put it in favor of RE2.
yeah, when this project was scrapped in favor of Resident Evil 2, some aspects were carried over, like the Plant 43 renamed as Ivy in Resident Evil 2. Do you think that there were several changes that could make it a good Resident Evil game?
It sounds interesting,
I've
but
left concept art here in the chat if you guys want to take a look. And
yeah, I saw that.
I already
It looked
know about it. You told me about it a lot.
I actually saw. Yeah, I saw the concept art as soon as you linked it. It looks interesting, but how is it? I don't know. It's like, how is it going to be a part of it, though?
What they were trying to go for was that Plant 42 somehow,
43.
at least the chemicals, or 42 from Resident Evil 1, somehow the chemicals from it released.
Oh.
And they kind of just, rebuilt like a lab where the destroyed mansion is, and you would go through there and you would face plant-like zombies, which those plant-like zombies that have like vines on their arms and backs and whatnot made their way into, I think, Outbreak, one of the Outbreak games. But you'd face that, you'd face monsters like the Ivy from Resident Evil 2, and you basically were just going around rediscovering stuff, and it was supposed to be 3 years later. However, they proposed Resident Evil 2, which to them sounded like a more interesting concept.
I mean, it's some things that kind of irk me. Like, yeah, the plant redesigning the place when the place was obviously blown to smithereens. I don't know how that would have worked per se, considering how the mansion was blown off the map. But I think that revisiting old haunts is something that they should definitely keep in mind, because I would love to see stuff come back or stuff be revisited in some format instead of just these new bland environments, because I think that Resident Evil 6 especially, they didn't really have anything that stood out outside of Tall Oaks. And maybe the underground chamber with Chris and everything, I like how that was designed. Other than that, I really didn't see any really interesting environments from there.
Mm-hmm.
But the concept is nice. I do think that it was original for what it was. Like, I just wonder, like, just to wrap my head around it, what could they have done story-wise with it? Like, maybe there was a team sent there to retrieve the remainder of the virus. I guess they could have put it something simple as that, because later with Resident Evil 2, you find out that Hunk, he came to retrieve the G-Virus from, I think... I keep forgetting, like, what exactly
William Birkin.
Yeah, he came to retrieve it from William Birkin, and I think he failed or whatever. And then,
he succeeded.
He
His
succeeded?
team failed.
Okay.
He got wrecked, but he succeeded.
Yeah, he got wrecked in the beginning, because I think Birkin, like, threw him through a wall or something, but he succeeded in his mission of getting the G-Virus sample, so they could just have someone come back and say, oh, look here, Wesker betrayed Umbrella, so we need to get these remnants of the virus out ASAP. So what does everyone else think of this concept of going back to the mansion and having this plant-like virus just infect everything and cause turmoil?
Well, the thing was already destroyed, so that wouldn't necessarily work in their favor.
That's what I was kind of thinking.
I get where some people are coming from with that.
I think it's something that if they had actually stuck with it before, it would have been fine. Now, if they were trying to release it in this day and age, it wouldn't go over so well.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that could have worked to make this idea work is if the canon ending was somehow the fact that they didn't blow up the mansion. Because I remember in a lot of endings, you could actually escape without blowing up the mansion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's true.
For like me personally, like Brandon knows how much I love the concept. I think there's stuff they can take from it. I think what they would have to do is change it so that it's not the Spencer Mansion. Maybe it's a completely different mansion. It might be like a throwback to like old school Resident Evil. But they take a lot of the concepts from this and try to rework it, so to speak.
to make it its own game and unrelated to what it originally was, outside of just monster designs and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could if you wanted to.
Not to mention, it's not like I would say it would definitely be a twist because it seems that so many plots of Resident Evil had Umbrella involved in everything. So this one would actually be like the creature taking over and doing shit.
You're mine now.
Yeah, that I think that would be a very interesting concept because then you would have to expect more of the unexpected from the monsters. Instead of just saying, oh, well, you know, we put these assholes in a mansion, they're test subjects, so let them have it.
Yeah, like maybe it could have been just like, oh hey, well they've progressed their research or whatever, but it's gotten to the point where it's mutated so quickly and so rapidly where they can't keep up with it.
Like science has gone too far.
It's alive!
It's alive!
Yeah,
And all of a sudden that guy dies anyway.
Yeah, I think it's a good concept, but
This day and age, after what we've gotten from Resident Evil 6, nothing.
no way. Well, I would say after Resident Evil 3 because I'm pretty positive Raccoon City has been wiped off the map for like ages.
Before it was made by Atlantis.
Atlantis.
Atlantis?
Yes, Atlantis.
Yeah, Aquaman's gonna rebuild Raccoon City. Everyone, get ready.
Yeah, remember
raccoons,
Battle for
people.
Atlantis? That shitty game for a GameCube?
Well, that's another subject entirely, Leffy, but I think we
know.
need to move on to the next question, which is question number 5. In recent years, we've seen fans divided on the camera perspective of which is better, and which games are better based strictly on the camera. What is your personal preference in terms of the camera, and do you think it makes a difference?
Me personally, I prefer over the shoulder. For me, fixed camera angles is extremely outdated, and I can't stand them. Now, if it's dependent on the game, and I can tolerate it, but in this day and age, Resident Evil needs to move on. I guarantee you, if Resident Evil didn't change or innovated itself from 4, people will probably complain that nothing's different, nothing has changed, it's the same thing since the 90s, same old, same old.
Yeah.
So either way, people are going to like it, or people are not going to like it. Simple as that.
Yeah, because most people will be so confused with the camera angle, the bird's eye view, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you're trying to like move straight, the controls are automatically shift to something else.
Yep.
Like personally, I agree with Brandon. I prefer over the shoulder because at least you have control of what direction you're going in.
And I got a better view on one of my enemies. Considering that I cannot see where my enemy's at, how is that scary? I feel that that's more of an annoyance.
Do you guys also feel the same way? Well, I guess, like, since we're on the subject and it's pretty much tying into the camera, do you guys feel that the tank controls are also outdated?
Yes.
Yeah, they're outdated nowadays.
Like for me personally, I think that I'm indifferent as to which camera is going to be picked. I like the tank controls, but if I think I'm kind of like Brandon, where it's like if I can get the over-the-shoulder perspective, I'll take it. My issue is that a lot of fans who like the fixed camera angles and the tank controls is that they always say that that's what's going to make Resident Evil better, or that's what makes a Resident Evil game. But people kind of forget that Resident Evil is all about the puzzles and the very deep lore that these games have in them, and
the
just,
atmosphere.
Yeah, just
that's
the
what got me
atmosphere
into the
and
series,
whatnot.
not some control scheme.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm open to doing either or, but if the game is not, if it doesn't feel like a horror game, if it doesn't have what makes Resident Evil, then I'm not gonna like it. It has nothing to do with camera angles or controls or anything like that,
I understand where you're coming from. Yeah, I can understand, but part of me kind of feels that I'm not jumping on the bandwagon of, okay, yeah, we definitely need over the shoulder all the time, ASAP or whatever, because I don't personally mind the tank controls. It just, to me, it all depends on how good the game plays, which is why, in particular, I don't
Agreed.
mind if they choose either tank controls or they go with the over-the-shoulder route, or they have an optional like. I think that Resident Evil Code Veronica X had an optional camera angle with battle mode where you can either do like the tank control third person or you can do like first person. I think that it should be optional when it comes to remake, and I certainly don't mind either or for fans who prefer over the shoulder at this point or the tank controls, because it's what people are accustomed to, but it's some people that also cannot accept change. So I think that at the best point, what Capcom could do is to keep both optional just in case you wanted to go back and play with it. Like, I remember...
I
don't mean to hold on, Brandon. I'll let you go in a sec. But like looking back and seeing what other fans have been saying, like, you know, someone will say like, why can't we have both? And it's not that we can't have both. Like, Capcom has proven that they can do both.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Resident Evil 5: Lost in Nightmares. You can actually play in the classic camera angles. The thing is that Capcom is lazy, so they're gonna choose one over the other.
Yeah, then in the end, they probably won't program the game to accustom to both.
And that's gonna suck, because then you're gonna have people saying, when it comes to remake, it's gonna be unfortunate, but you're gonna have people saying that, oh yeah, this is tank control, old school camera. I mean, it's great and all, but there are gonna be some people saying it's outdated for a new game that's coming out whenever, 2017. I do think that they should keep it optional so that you can appease both sides of the field. I mean, I'm not saying that they shouldn't have to shoehorn that in if they didn't want to, or they felt there's going to be some limitation, but they should at least try, given how they had another team before them actually do something experimental with like a Resident Evil Reborn demo, and they had both perspectives already.
Oh yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I think
Brian said he'd be right back.
No,
I
sir.
think-
I gotta say
Brian.
something real quick. I think it's kind of Capcom's fault for not actually directly innovating the series since 1. Because let's be honest here, there are like little changes between 1, 2, and 3. 3 was the most changeable of the 3 in my opinion. Because they added more and they tried to, like, I guess, be more creative.
Yes.
With 3.
I can see that.
I don't mind them being more
with-
creative with what they have either.
So when 4 came around, I think it was either it was a little late, or they did it to, yeah, I think it's a little late considering that we have 4 classic style games, which none of them really innovated the series. Then 4 came along, which completely changed the series for the better, in my opinion. Then we got 5, which no opinions, I guess, on that one.
The only thing that I had an issue with 4 after playing 3 was that a lot of the things from 3 did not carry over, like the choice mechanic, the gunpowder mechanic, you know,
Let's be
things of
honest,
that
none of
nature.
that carried over from the other games. I wish they actually returned that feature because 3 did it well, in my opinion, but it never returned.
You mean the
Yeah,
gunpowder feature?
Yeah, the gunpowder feature.
Oh
choice
god, I
system
missed that so
that will
much.
alter your story in a
Yep.
way.
Yeah, that
Which
was the live selections, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember
So-
those.
I mean, like, that was something that really disappointed me with RE4.
Makes sense.
So I guess we can move on to question number 6. If
Well,
Well,
before we
Brian's not
move,
here right now.
I thought he was.
Is he?
Yeah, I thought it was.
yeah,
Well,
Brian, you here, man?
Brian,
Yep.
you're
But he's
there?
got to drink.
Oh, he's back. Okay.
All
Yeah.
right, good. Now we can
Did
move
he
on.
go?
Did you go yet, Brian, on question number 5?
I mean, I said it earlier. To me, over the shoulder, maybe a little under, but best camera angle for me because it at least keeps up the tension of the creepy, potentially scary vibe you get. That's pretty much it.
It also improves your aim a lot better.
That
Yep.
too.
Also, I think before I move on, I think this is the greatest concoction of a drink I've ever made.
Oh Lord.
Nice of you to share, good sir.
No. 1/3 cream soda, 1/3 Mountain Dew, and 1/3 Coca-Cola. Put them all
okay.
together.
Good
Put them
of
all
you to
together.
share, good sir.
No, put it all together, you get Nuka-Cola.
Oh my god. Well, I wanted to add in extra something that's on topic, that I do think that with the third person camera angle, the over-the-shoulder one, they can make an atmospheric, scary game because of it. Because I think that's how Dead Space 1 succeeded, was because it was very atmospheric, creepy, and scary as hell with some of the stuff that was going on. So I don't think there's an excuse, really.
And then they just made, all of a sudden, up-in-your-face horror, like what they did for the second game, especially.
Yeah, Dead Space 2 was a lot more action-oriented.
Dead Space did horror correctly with the first and the second. The third, they fucked up with the third one, in my opinion. But
not even gonna go into the third game at all.
Still a good game, but just, I don't know. They fucked it up.
Yep, I'm gonna totally agree with that. So, basically, we're gonna go to question number 6, and that is, we've had very action-oriented Resident Evil games as of late, including the recently announced Umbrella Corps, which isn't even titled Resident Evil in the West. Do you think that action-based Resident Evil games are okay, or do you think it should be strictly a survival horror-based series or action-based genre? Or should it go something like Dino Crisis? And a continuing question on this is, are you hyped for Umbrella Corps? Sasuke is. Oh, God.
Do you all mind if I go first for this one?
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Go for it.
So, I used to be against the idea, but I think depending on the scenario, like, depending on how it's done, like, if it's Mercenaries, for example, I'd be okay with that. Like, can we get another Mercenaries game or an HD remaster of Mercenaries 3D? That I'd be okay with.
Can I piggyback off of that, please?
Oh, yeah, sure.
They did a Mercenaries game on the 3DS, right?
Yes.
Yep.
I am surprised that they put Umbrella Corps out over something like a full Mercenaries reunion as one singular game.
You know, I actually will pick it back off that too. No, if Capcom wanted to, they could actually like make an investment out of Mercenaries games.
Oh yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
Wait,
I'm surprised they didn't push 3D more.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
like they could have made an actual side story games revolving around Mercenaries, like different characters around the series come by, do something.
Yeah, like, why not put all of them in a singular Mercenaries game? Instead, you got this crap that's Umbrella Corps, this MOD garbage.
It's like, Capcom, do you seriously want money again?
Oh.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, like, I'm okay if it's a side game, but if it's a mainline game, then
No.
I think it should stay horror-based.
Okay, well, I can kind of agree at the if the action is done right, then you could, but with horror elements, or a horror game with action elements.
I want to piggyback off that. I don't think that they should lose sight of what the series was known for. In the very least, like, they can go the action-based route, but at least put something in there that is horror-based, that is, you know, that makes it innovative, that makes it not a generic third-person shooter again and again, because we're oversaturated with those as much as we are oversaturated with first-person shooters.
And also, if you decide to go with horror elements, don't do something that's been done over and over and over and over, like jump scares.
Yeah, jump scares suck.
Don't do that. Like 1 or 2 are good. Do it all the time. That it kills the mood. It kills the tension in the atmosphere.
Mr. Word, do you have an opinion on this?
Mr. Dictionary.
The bird is the word.
Mr. Thesaurus.
Dictionary.
To me, it's like I said earlier. If you have the characters where they were trained to do more of the actiony stuff when they're fighting, that makes perfect sense. The problem is when you try and do it for every game, and instead of it being more so a fight for survival, it's more like warfare. It's kind of like how if you took the remake of Dawn of the Dead, you gave everybody those awesome acrobatic martial arts, and it's like, you know, to cut through this whole thing, no problem. So really, it's just like, what's the point? Because then it gets to that point where you basically have to kill people off just to amp up the dramatic tension, and then it just falls flat.
And like in Resident Evil 4, where they killed Lewis, I think that was a big mistake, personally.
Yeah, why isn't he a playable character?
He's never been a playable character in Mercenaries, to my knowledge.
Nope.
That is a good question.
Like,
And the funny thing,
he could have played an important role in 4. He was gone most of the time. So like, what was he doing most of the time?
at most trying to work with Ada so that Sadler didn't get as much power as he could have.
I wish he succeeded.
I think he was mainly trying to find a cure for the parasite, right?
I think so.
Something like that.
Yeah, something in the files like sort of alludes to that. That's why I think he made that big machine that gets rid of the plaga, like the laser removal plaga. He gets rid of that. He's the one who made it.
Yeah, it's like we know he was a scientist, and then he said that thing where he used to be a cop, but then it's like we only hear about this kind of thing in passing, and then it's like, but how would he, like, if you had to take Lewis and put him in like the environment of, say, Raccoon City when the outbreak hit, how would he handle it?
I personally think that what they did with that is they just said that, okay, we find Krauser to be a more interesting character for some reason because they put him in Darkside Chronicles.
And the funny thing is, we still didn't know anything about Krauser's past except for why he defected, and that was it.
Yeah.
It's like at least with everyone else, we know some of their background, like the fact that Chris was in the Air Force and that Jill's dad was a thief or something like that, and that Leon was trained to be a police officer, and Claire had Chris to train her up. It's like the characters that we all knew and loved back in the originals, it was like they had stuff that it made sense for them to be the way they are. But then it's like don't get me wrong, some of the new characters like Wesker is a villain that we could all love simply because of his background. And then it's like you look at somebody like say Helena or Piers or Jake, and it's like Helena was alright, but we don't really know anything about her except for why she got involved with the whole situation.
Now,
Piers,
I don't mind Jake Miller, but I hate the fact that you shoehorn as Wesker's son.
Yeah. There were some
like-
problems with some of the new characters that I didn't
How did he
like.
get his powers again from that C virus strain?
something about Wesker having something in his genes that allowed him to be not only immune to mutation effects, but it's something about it got passed to Jake, and when Jake got hit with the C virus, apparently his body managed to not only fight it off, but allowed it to where for some reason his blood was allowed it to where it could be used as a cure.
Yeah, he can't get infected.
So
Yeah.
he's a walk-in cancer cure. Yay.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So, I think that if we were finished with number 6,
Are we hyped up for Umbrella Corps?
Umbrella Corps? No.
No.
Well, I was gonna just bring up the fact that before we move on to the next question, I do think that Dino Crisis would benefit from Resident Evil's style of action, just over the top and insane.
I agree.
That just feels like something Dino Crisis should do, not Resident Evil.
Dino Crisis 2 was a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
they already changed the formula with Dino Crisis. First, it was a survival panic game, what Mikami was calling it, where they had a lot of horror elements, but basically you were put in these intense situations that were far above and beyond Resident Evil when it came to certain things. Now you have Dino Crisis 2, where they made it more into an action game. So I'm surprised that they didn't make more of those games. I believe that one of the former Capcom VPs, said that because Dino Crisis 3 was horrible, that they didn't make another one because of it.
Resident Crisis or Resident Dino.
Thanks, Shinji. No one wanted dinosaurs in space.
Now get in the fucking
Dinosaurs
robot.
in space.
Well, I think we need to move on to question number 7.
Yeah, let's go on to question 7. I think the 7th one is good.
Yeah, what is the best Resident Evil game in your opinion?
4.
I have 2
3.
actually. I have 2, but only because classic and modern.
Go ahead.
4 for modern and 2 for classic.
Okay, what happened?
Okay.
We're talking about best Resident Evil game in our opinion.
If
That's what
if
it's-
if Revelations was if it wasn't just for other consoles, I would have put that, but I don't know. I preferred 4 the best.
Okay, so for
And
classic, we definitely 3 hands down. For modern, yeah, you can shoot me, but safe. Well, well, can I split modern between the classic? I mean, for the spin-offs and the mainstream.
Sure, no problem. You can do that.
yeah,
I
we
like
can make
5.
sure.
I like Jordan 5 a lot as for the modern games, but Revelations is like my favorite Resident Evil game. The first one.
Yeah, the
Mhm.
second one was better. Like if I kind of like Mercenaries. We can say for spin-offs, Mercenaries was great.
Yeah, spin-off or stuff we enjoyed specifically for that particular game. Yeah.
What was the what
Yeah,
was
they
the thing,
could have done more in Mercenaries.
what was the
They
what
could
was the-
have, yeah.
what was the thing in Revelations 2? What was that?
Raid mode?
Raid mode.
The EX battle.
Yeah, the
Extreme battle?
raid mode. Because I remember Renegade would go on and on about that.
Yeah, it was pretty fun for what it was. It was kind of grindy, which is why I didn't really get any of the extra weapons or
Yeah.
special code red weapons or whatever the fuck people were talking about. But that's the reason why I didn't go on and get those, because it was kind of grindy.
Yeah. Oh, did
Sure.
Brian save his?
Mine was 4.
Oh, okay.
It seemed like a nice change up, and it definitely had more tension to it, and like a much more sense of urgency. Where at first it starts out as just a regular mission where you got to go and retrieve somebody, but then it's like you got to make sure you survive, so that way you can be rid of the thing trying to take you over, and then you can just go home in peace.
Yeah.
Too bad that didn't last for the next 2 games.
Yep.
I'm going to say my favorite Resident Evil game in the classic series is 2, and I guess I would count this also as the classic game mechanics, so I count 2 and remake with the way that they play. I really enjoyed those games. I think that they were the apex of the series in terms of classic games. In terms of modern, I will say Resident Evil 4. Definitely, it was a nice change of pace. It had everything that you really could ask for out of a Resident Evil game when it came to just these freakish designs and the mood and atmosphere. When it came to some of the monster designs, I think that was the last kind of creepy Resident Evil game in the modern setting.
So quick, curious question to those of you that say 2 and 4.
Yeah,
Is
that
it
was
because
me.
of is it because of the game or is it because of the character? Because I'm noticing that people's
No,
favorites always
actually-
got to be the Leon in it. So
Well,
happens
I
to be
do like
Leon in it.
Leon as a character, but I like the story and the gameplay for 4, and also for 2. Well, for 2, I like the story.
I
It's
kinda
definitely
find
the
ironic,
game for
like,
me.
For
Yeah,
me, my favorite
but also
games
also
have-
the gameplay. It's for the gameplay and story for both. Even though, so it's basically kind of like the Final Fantasy VII conundrum. How people like that for its characters.
like for me, it's like I kind of ironic that my favorite games have Chris or not Claire, Jill in it, and for anyone else, it's Leon in it. So it's like,
I think Leon was good as a character because he was just a cop that had no idea what to do, and his first day was in Raccoon City. That's the reason why I liked him that much.
it
But
won't
he
be realistic. He probably wouldn't survive.
Yeah, he kind of was like a quote unquote realistic view of what you would do if this happened. Trained as a cop, but not as a specialist like Jill and Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
But-
I'll
but
be
at-
a little
but at the
honest
very-
here. I think Ada had a role in that as well, considering that she was around a good bit. Like he probably would die quite a few times if Ada wasn't around, and vice versa, considering that she almost died.
Yeah.
I think it sort of depends on what exactly what situations actually would have involved Ada. Because like Resident Evil 2, up until they met up, it was basically, well, depending on whether you go with the original or the Dark Side Chronicles version of the story, it was Leon in the original, in Dark Side Chronicles, it was Leon and Claire. So it was like maybe after they met and Ada pulled her little disappearing act, it would have made sense if she had something to do with that. Now Resident Evil 4, it made sense. It made sense when Leon was unknowingly crossing paths with her.
Yeah.
It made sense because it's like, Leon goes to the village with his little sidearm, and he has to deal with like what 50 to 100 villagers in one go.
And
It's
just
like
a grenade, call it a day. Kappa.
and that's if he had a grenade on him.
I would not
Hey,
correlate.
but-
I would not correlate some of the story segments with the gameplay. I think that what they wanted us to believe was that during that whole segment or whatever, that Ada was behind the scenes because the whole goal of her character is to be elusive. I believe that if she was just running around in the village while Leon was tearing shit up, they would have ran into each other eventually. That like, to me, I think that it would have made no sense if they correlated the gameplay in there. I think that cutscene at the end where she kills that one villager and gets out of there, I think that sort of sums up her entire goal for that, was that she was quietly watching Leon's back the entire time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's even funnier when you consider the fact that like her and Leon were in the village at the very beginning of their campaigns at the exact same time, and then they were at the army base at the same time. Not to mention being in the castle at the same time, because there is that one point where Leon has to get something from that one room where you get the rocket launcher in the castle, and when you're playing as Ada, you can literally see him on the other side of the wall through that gate just shooting at guys.
Rambo style.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
just
think, but at the same time, when you play as her, you can just quietly like do what you have to do and leave the area. So I think that sort of, I think she said something too, like I don't want Leon to know that I'm here, otherwise I have to take him out. So
Cause that was Wesker's idea.
yeah, Wesker wanted him dead, so that's why she really didn't encounter him that much for when he told her, take him out, and she really wasn't feeling it, and she kept disobeying him. So I think that's what they tried to convey with her, is that even though they were under orders and it was professional, they still had this history together that they really want to illustrate to the fans.
Mm-hmm.
Secret lovers.
Oh my god.
Don't.
I'm just gonna say.
Hey, don't rattle up the Rule 34 people.
I'm sorry.
I'm just gonna say.
Go ahead, Dom.
I'm just gonna say, as far as classic Resident Evils go, 3 I definitely like. That's my favorite. I'm kind of split between liking the original Resident Evil and the remake. I like them for two different reasons. And as far as modern ones go, Resident Evil 4 is my favorite.
Yeah.
Did everyone go with theirs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, then we can
and
move to
also-
question number 8.
Before you do, I think I have one thing to say. It has to do with what Brian said. It's not unusual to fall in love with anyone.
Oh, you corny fuck. Let's move on to question number 8.
Okay.
With the way that... Damn it, you got Brandon singing. Great. Perfect.
It's a good song. Fuck you.
But with question number 8, we have, with the way Revelations 2 ended, do you feel as though they tried to rip off the evil within to some degree with their ending?
Okay, before I
No.
answer, is
Yes.
it okay? Is it okay if we could say how it ended?
We can drop spoilers here because it is
Okay.
kind of a spoilerific
Okay,
question.
yeah. This disclaimer. This has to relate with spoilers. You've been warned. I hated how they pulled two endings. If you want the good ending and the bad ending.
Yeah.
Like,
They did it horribly.
when I first played it, I got the bad ending, which is, I think, Barry dies. Or yeah, I think Barry dies.
No. What happens
Barry's
is...
daughter dies
Yeah,
in
Barry's
the
daughter. Yeah,
non-canon
his daughter
ending.
dies. Yeah, but he kind of dies on the inside because Barry lost his daughter, and it turns out that the fucking little child was actually Wesker's sister.
Mm-hmm.
No,
I
think-
hated that ending. No, that ending made me so irritated and disappointed in that game.
Then
That's the
what
one
happened
reason-
was the
That's-
monster attacked you, and all of a sudden, like, Barry's daughter melted his hand, and it's like her consciousness was totally gone in favor of Alice controlling her.
Yeah. I hate again,
Alice.
Alex. If I said
Alex.
Alice, forgive me.
well, then again, it's a female name, so Alice doesn't matter. But it just, I hated that. It's like I am Alex. It's like I hate you, little kid. I hope you die. And that is the one thing I did not like about it. It was the most disappointing thing I've ever experienced.
Hey, Rand, wasn't one of your guests back in the TCP before I jumped on said something about Alex Wesker being a man?
Yes, that was Megara who said that. So
Oh God.
what basically her theory
Fine.
was that she thought that Alex Wesker should have never been a female because it was always established as a he in Resident Evil 5 Lost in Nightmares. So the revelation kind of shocked her, and she really wasn't supportive of it.
That's
okay.
I'm kind of on
Actually-
that boat too.
Actually, I'm running that file through my head, and the thing that I remember specifically was that it said Alex Wesker, but it actually made no indication whether or not Alex was a man or woman.
Really, no.
yeah.
No, I think I can find the file on 5 right now. Let me get the game.
But do you want to know the one thing?
So-
Okay, if people did decide to play it, you want to know how to get the good ending. The good ending, I love the good ending because the good ending was badass though.
Also, I'll give a disclaimer. Like, if that is wrong, if it never referred to Alex Wesker as a female or man, we'll definitely vouch for that. And
Yeah.
if it's right, however, if they did, then we'll definitely
Holy
say
shit.
that's definitely been retconned to hell because like, oh, now it's a dude, now it's a
Yeah.
female.
Well, it kind of. Well, then again, if you wanted the good ending, you had to do something in episode 3, which is dumb. Which is allowing was it Moira?
Yeah, Moira has to
you
shoot the gun.
you had to make her pick up the gun, which is dumb. I was like, okay, the good ending, you gotta make her do that. Fuck you, Capcom.
Yeah, that was I didn't like that at all. Like,
I mean, why couldn't she
Wait,
shoot the gun
okay, I
before?
need to like throw something out there. I know that Moya had like a phobia against guns.
Yeah.
If she didn't pick up that gun, would she still be afraid of guns if she
That's
didn't?
explained in the DLC chapters.
So if she died
like-
at the end, she did not pick up a weapon, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
if she
the only way
dies,
she died,
she doesn't
you-
pick up a weapon.
Yeah, she doesn't
She-
pick
wait,
up.
she- Yeah, that's probably why. I could see what they were going for there. If he didn't tell her to pick up the weapon, she probably would have never made it. If he did tell her to pick it up, then she survives. I can see where they're going for with that.
Yeah, but it just makes no sense.
And
you
I-
have to look
it's-
deeper into it, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does sound stupid.
It just
say it out
sounds
loud.
dumb, but I can see what they're trying to go for. Like Moira, like grows some balls and actually fires a gun for the first time. You know, but
Now,
you get what I
okay,
mean.
real quick, Brian, what file were you talking about?
There was a file on a computer in a room somewhere that actually talks about how Spencer tried to get in contact with Alex Wesker, but she disappeared at the time and just went undercover, or well, basically disappeared and just nothing heard from her.
Yeah, and I'm still confused on the whole, did they really reference Alex Wesker as a he or she? But that's what Megara was telling us, is that she didn't like the fact that they were doing that, so she wasn't behind it 100%.
Like here's
but
here's the funny thing about that. Here's the funny thing about that. When you're writing something and you're trying to keep it a secret as to what exactly a character will be, it depends heavily on how you word it. So like in the case of that file that I mentioned, like I said, it had her name in it, but there was nothing in particular that actually suggested Alice was a guy or a girl. What was said was that another file in the game was that it listed a number of the 13 subjects who were still surviving at the time, and eventually 11 of them pretty much got nixed for one reason or another, and only Albert Wesker and Alice Wesker were left.
I think it's
We are-
because they could not survive the injections of the progenitor virus.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why all of them mostly died except those two.
Yeah, and as far as that file said, it didn't say specifically that Alex was a female, let alone a male, but it just said that Alex disappeared and contact was lost, and that was it.
They also said about Alex Wesker getting away with the immortality virus, or whatever that was. Like, apparently they do talk about it a lot more in Revelations. that the only way to get this virus is to die. So that goes into the ending where, well, we're going to talk about the good ending, where if you stay after the credits, you will find out that the little girl is alive and well, but she's reading all these books. You know, she's doing all of these nefarious deeds, and then you find out that for some reason, one way or another, that they had a brain transfer, like a brain swap. So Alex Wesker managed to get her mind into the little girl by dying.
She's a lolly now.
Do you mind
That
if I piggyback off of that?
That is retarded.
Do you mind if I piggyback off of that really quick?
She's a lolly now.
See, that's where I think it does rip off from The Evil Within, because anyone who's played The Evil Within knows that by the end, and spoiler alert if you haven't, by the end, Ruvik gets a hold of Leslie, yeah, and lo and behold, by the end of the game, when you get out of the stem, you see Leslie walking, and all of a sudden he gets Ruvik's powers. So that's where I kind of feel as though they did rip off The Evil Within. And as far as like what they were doing with like Alex and how they revealed her, I personally feel as though they should have just said that Alex was Hunk and was a male character. I would have preferred that over how they did it in Revelations 2.
I had that same thought myself, because it was like Hunk being Alice Wesker would have made a lot more sense, because one, we haven't seen Hunk since God knows how long, and then two, there was something about Hunk where they tried to they made a point of making him more significant in the overall scheme of things when like right before Umbrella collapsed. But then it was like he just fell off the face of the earth.
And I think that, to add on to that, Brian, I think that it would have added a secret agenda, because it would have put more of a relationship between Hunk and Wesker. Considering the fact that, I guess you can say that Hunk was more accepted from Umbrella, whereas Wesker turned on them.
Exactly.
So it would have put a lot of a secret relationship, if you will, between them if they did that.
And I mean, he's also known as the human unit never killed. That's where it's shortened to Hunk.
Yeah.
So it kind of ties into how, almost every time before 5, when Wesker quote unquote died, he pretty much survived it. He didn't die, so it would make sense as to why Hunk is Alex.
Yeah, and at the very least with Hunk, it was like there was that mission where they had to get the G virus, and it's like he got knocked out, but he never died, but everybody else did, because much as the thought probably horrifies us, he still had the stones to just keep on going. Mm-hmm. It's like he left his teammates behind, but he kept on going.
Yeah, I would love to see, like, I wouldn't mind if that turned out to be the case and they made Hunk like a villain, but they made him make like a lot of sense. I would love to see the fact that you have this guy that rejects, the virus and what he is, and he has this extraordinary talent and he doesn't rely on it, but that he's an evil bastard. He left his teammates to die in the past, so it really can tie into something remarkable if they went that route. I think that route would have been more interesting than, here's a little girl here. She has some sort of powers going on. She can see these monsters and whatnot from far distances. Let's just swap her brain out.
Medium.
Yeah, let's just swap her brain out for another villain, and the deed is done. We have our nefarious villain that's possibly going to be in Resident Evil 7, and she's immortal, so she can probably be a Murray Sue for all we care. It's probably going to happen.
The Evil Thin says hi. Before we move on, I think we do have a question that touches upon Hunk a little bit, so we'll definitely talk more about that.
What did you say it meant for again?
About what?
The Hunk meant?
There's a question later down.
No. What did his name mean? I'm sorry.
Human unit never killed.
Oh, okay. That's what it meant.
Yep.
Okay, let's move on to the next question. Sorry.
All right, so we have question number 9, and that is underrated characters. Which underrated characters would you like to see return for a future game, whether it's a mainline game or a spin-off title?
Sheva.
Rebecca. And Sheva. Yeah,
Barry,
Sheva.
Rebecca, Carlos, and Billy.
I'm just gonna say Rebecca and Billy. At this point, I think they need another game.
Yeah,
pretty much
Rebecca
all
and
the-
Where's
Billy.
Carlos? Where's
the characters who
Carlos?
disappeared
Everyone
need to
loves
come
his
back.
sexy accent.
Oh
Yeah.
god.
I said
First-
everybody that was a secondary character.
I think-
Carlos, Sheva, Rebecca, Billy, everyone that wasn't around since the
Yeah,
previous game.
Rebecca, Billy, and Sheva. I think those two. I agree. The first two, Rebecca and Billy, need their own game, but Sheva is because of that ass.
Yeah. Well, you.
I mean,
would
you
say
can't
that.
go wrong with that ass.
You will say that. She has an African ass. So you know what? I
Hey,
think
hey,
that's
hey,
pretty
hey,
good.
hey, hey, hey.
Well-
We all have that jungle fever. And all that.
I was
Oh
just
my
gonna s-
god.
But to be fair, I'm black, so
It's like I'm gonna make a black on black
I'm
sandwich.
black too.
Shit.
I'm gonna make a black on. I'm gonna make a black and peanut butter sandwich.
Shit.
I was just
Hey,
gonna
I'm
say as far
sorry.
as I was just gonna say as far as like Carlos goes, I really just want to know what he does after the whole leaving Umbrella thing in Resident Evil 3.
Well, apparently,
I agree.
according to one of the title screen, he bangs Jill.
Jill banging everybody, banging Chris, banging
Man,
Carlos,
Man, everyone's having that.
banging
shit.
Parker.
Oh my
Who
god.
ain't she bang?
she
Even Barrett.
Yeah,
she just running through the whole team.
he been
Man,
to, he
now
been
you're
to
getting
that
so-
Jill
No,
sandwich.
now you're getting so many questions of why Barry would say a Jill sandwich. Now you have so many ideas and so many theories.
It looks
need
like
a
I
Jill
have
sandwich.
this into a missionary position, and she's a Jill sandwich.
Oh,
Chris, why are you from behind? You got her back. Yep.
Oh no.
It's like I'm behind.
He's
Jill
my old
100%.
partner.
I got no. Chris is like, I got her back.
oh, I got her back alright.
I'm behind Jill 100%.
Oh my god. All
Come on,
We
go,
need
go.
to go. We need to go to question number 10. I'm crying.
Let's
go. All right. So, which Resident Evil games would you like to see get a remake or HD remaster? If not, a digital PS2 re-release on the PlayStation 4.
I don't think Code Veronica would work because it already has an HD re-release.
Yes,
Well,
it does.
then again,
Yeah.
actually,
I would
let's
say-
look
I
at
would-
Yakuza.
I-
Wait, let's look at Yakuza. That got an HD remake and is getting a full-fledged remake.
You know what I would say? See, because since you're doing 2, why not do 3?
Yeah. I definitely. I don't see why they wouldn't remake Resident Evil 2, even if it took more time.
Well, they're already. I thought they were doing 2 already.
Yeah, they're doing
two.
2, but not 3. I
Yeah,
meant
why
3,
not
my
do
bad.
3? Complete the entire
I
trilogy.
think they're gonna do it if Resident Evil 2 is successful.
Well,
Which
it
is-
probably is going to be.
Right, so I think they'll do it. I think they just want to see the numbers for Resident Evil 2 and see, well, if it's successful, we'll go on with Resident Evil 3.
Because when you
and
think
it-
about it, Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3, they take place in like the same time period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a few days difference.
Yeah,
so
a
to
few
speak.
days different. So it wouldn't make any real sense if the game sold well and Capcom just decided, well, we're going to wait for another 10, 20 years before we finally make another one because we don't have enough fan feedback.
As far as like HD remasters or digital PS2 re-release, I know a lot of people want to see the Outbreak games get an HD remaster. I would prefer the
okay.
HD remaster just for the online support. Because
Yeah.
all I've played with Resident Evil Outbreak, it's meh. But I guarantee you that if it was, if you could play it online with people, it'd be really fun.
It has an
Yeah,
audience,
actually,
I'll say that much.
I think it should get a full-fledged remake, like making it a canon story that happens around Raccoon City.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think that for Resident Evil Outbreak, I would be in agreement that they should remake it if they had the opportunity to do so. Maybe put some new stories in or whatever. I think that would take a little bit more time. So if they had to resort to putting it out there one way or the other, I guess that they could do like an HD remaster instead.
They could.
Yeah.
So any of you other guys have any questions about this topic?
Nope.
Nope, we're good.
All right.
I am still sticking with my answer.
All right, so I'm gonna move to question number 11. Would it be okay if the wait? I gotta read this over. All right, so all right, would you okay? What?
Would you be okay?
I don't know who wrote number 11.
Either that or are you okay?
Okay.
Down.
All
I
right.
didn't write
So
number 11.
I fixed it for you.
let me try to do this again. All right. So would you be okay with the Unreal 4 engine if it was used in the development of Resident Evil 2 Remake, especially if this engine boosts up development time as it is doing with Final Fantasy VII, the remake?
Personally, no, I wouldn't be okay with it.
Me neither. This would be the third game that Capcom has made that uses a different engine that's not Pantaray. They teased Pantaray with Deep Down, and we just haven't seen it ever since. It's like, why didn't we get that with Umbrella Corps? Why didn't we get that with was it Street Fighter V? Why didn't those two games get Pantaray engine? So like Resident Evil 2 Remake, I feel as though they should stick with that new engine and try to push the capabilities of that and kind of show off the potential for it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and also, we don't even know if Final Fantasy VII the remake's going to come out in 2016 or not.
They claim that the first part is finished, so that's what I guess what they mean is by accelerated development.
But
they
knowing
mean
Square
story.
Enix, they're gonna try to finish the entire game in its entirety, and just lock some things onto the disc.
I'm not disputing it at all. I think that Square Enix, they do have a lot on their plate. I think that even if Capcom sort of went down this route, depending on what happens, I don't think that they will have a lot compared to Square Enix. Now, this is just me speaking hypothetical, so I don't really know what they're going to do, but I would figure at least the best possible out of that situation would be the game coming out earlier than expected. That's it. Other than that, I don't know. I think that they do need to show their new engine, Fantaray, because nobody hasn't seen it, and supposedly it's going to be on Deep Down, but they are not showing much of that game, so we don't know the capabilities. We just know that for what the engine does is really a hot commodity for Capcom because they haven't showed it off. They say it could do a lot of shit, and it's supposedly taking over from MT Framework, am I right?
Yes, it's apparently
Yes.
supposed to be like several times better than MT Framework, and we haven't seen anything of it, and it's like, well, what's the point of announcing a new engine if you're not going to use it?
Yeah.
And if you're not going to use it, then why aren't you using MT Framework anymore?
I'm assuming that
Seems
it's still,
kind
like,
of
tests on the
ridiculous
engine.
that you wouldn't use your own engine.
I'm making an assumption that it's still maybe in somewhat beta stage, so they're testing it out.
Yeah,
more.
but I guess you can say that, but at the same time, they do have it working on an operational game, which is supposedly Deep Down, like they claim.
Let's just say it's a tech demo.
Yeah, you can. I guess you could say it's just a tech demo for that engine, but I need to go back and look down at Deep Down footage. But from what I've seen, it looks pretty alright. I mean, it looks like it's gonna get the job done for a full-fledged game. I just wish that whatever they use is just something that is good, flexible, and it manages to put out a relatively, good game without a lot of bugs or screen tears or graphical glitches. So that's what I hope for. I hope for the best, obviously. Does anyone else have any input on number 11?
Yeah, stop lying about Final Fantasy VII. It's not coming out till next 2 years from now.
Yeah, I'm sticking to what I said before on that.
I am too.
But
all I can say is, to me, if they set a time for it, they use the engine, and it actually turns out fine, and everything works properly the way it should, then I see no problem with it.
yeah, definitely. I definitely am in agreement with that. I think that it's going to take some time to see what happens, but I personally don't mind what they use, just as long as they churn out a good product out of it.
Yeah.
So, we're moving on to number 12, and it's what did you think of the Resident Evil CGI movies, and are you excited about the new CGI feature film coming out in 2017?
I go first?
I'll go ahead.
Yeah, I like him though, but I think Damnation was kind of boring. It should have been a Chris Redfield movie with the BSA.
Really? A lot of people say that Degeneration also kind of sparked out. Well, the main complaint is that they felt when Claire got taken out of the equation with a piece of glass in the leg, that it just became a Leon movie after that.
Yeah. It did, considering that she was, for that exact reason, she was injured, so she couldn't do anything. So logically, she would be doing behind the scenes work.
Yeah, which she was. So it did. I can kind of see their point of saying these are two important central characters.
But if you didn't see the movie, you probably don't know why. But Leon was fighting against another C virus type monster. Not C virus, G virus type monster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if Claire was there, she would get killed. What was that?
And then on top of that, there's the fact that, like, they made it a point of establishing basically the female lead, you could say, for Leon. And maybe it's just me, but it's like they tried to shoehorn some sort of romantic interest, but they didn't really do anything with it.
That's never gonna happen, because at this
it's
point,
Resident Evil.
Yeah, it's Resident Evil. You're dealing with monsters and things turning into assholes. There's no time for love on the battlefield. This is not Metal Gear.
Wait, literally turning into anuses? Okay.
Well, I think that one of Birkin's forms does look like that, but I'm not going to get into the specifics. So, and another thing is, they're already making this, they already had this deep-seated relationship with Ada and Leon, so why is...
Claire Leon.
Yeah.
Well, it's on and off, really, so...
Yeah, why are they going to make this newfound love interest when it's just probably going to be fizzed off as a fling? I don't understand.
Because reasons.
Here's one thing that forever kills me every time I think about this. Because I said this to somebody at some point, and it's just like, it just never leaves me. Okay, so Resident Evil 1, Barry has his off-screen wife and kids somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. And then you got Chris and Jill. Like, Chris and Jill...
went up the hill.
Thank you. Chris and Jill... Chris is like Chris and Jill. That's it. In comes Resident Evil 2. You got Leon. It's like, first there could have been something with Leon and Claire, but then you throw in Ada, and it's like, oh Lord. And then the next thing you know, flash forward, is Leon and Ada again. And then comes Degeneration, excuse me. Then comes Degeneration. Now you got Leon, who's got Ada, who's got Claire,
who's got new chick.
And try to make him into a Mac Daddy, man.
He's got the
it wouldn't be Jill, because Leon can't have any of that Jill sandwich, so he's going to be having that Chinese food and his hot sister.
Well, wasn't for Resident Evil 2, wasn't he coming off of coming to work late or whatever because he broke up with his girlfriend?
Yeah, supposedly.
And they also established that he's an alcoholic.
Supposedly, I guess you could kind of say that he does get a little bit twisted in Damnation, because he's drinking at the end of the movie. But other than that, I think that what they do with these side characters, they never really establish them ever again after a certain period of time. It's like, you can tell with the Resident Evil movies and the games in general that some characters are characters that Capcom really don't care about, and there are some characters that always get the spotlight more than others.
It's
fucking Chris.
Like writing wise is examples of what you call either creator's pet or character focus.
Yeah.
Which character focus is considerably better, because at the very least, normally you can shine a spotlight on characters who really need that background fleshed out. And the reason creators pet is worse is because when you have characters, people that fans generally don't like, it's like that should tell you that they really don't want to see this person because they're not interesting or they're just generally hated. But the creator still keeps them around because it's like, I like it. And it's like normally with art, you want to like try and put out something that you can reach to your audiences that they will get. But when you're talking about something like video games and TV, is like if you want to keep your fans, you gotta at least make sure you keep their interest. You don't want to keep their interest in the sense of you're doing it on the fan say so, but you do it because you think people will like it and they'll watch it. It's like that fine line with trying to make something good, interesting, and sensible where people can eat it up and be invested in it. And then on the flip side, it's like you're so desperate to make something so interesting to fans that you either toss out whatever progress you already made just to make it interesting, and it just goes downhill.
Yeah, true words from Mr. Word, who is actually a writer.
Thank you.
And
Mr. Dictionary.
Mr. Dictionary. So I would like to say for this topic, for question number 12, like, what does everyone think of both CGI movies so far, I guess? And the new one that they do have. Because we need to get back on topic.
I just have a question, before anybody goes, I just have a question regarding the new one. It's because I've heard things that, like, it's supposed to be like a pseudo reboot where the last two aren't supposed to be canon, and this one's supposed to be like a horror one with Rebecca and Claire, or not Rebecca and Claire, Rebecca
Chris,
and Chris.
Leon, and Rebecca.
This is the thing. What I think of the new movie. They did say it was going to be a reboot, but that could basically mean anything. It could mean that they're rebooting it in terms of a new trilogy. It could mean that they're rebooting it in terms of a full reboot entirely. It could be a reboot in terms of they're just rebooting the theme of these movies, which is mostly the CGI movies have like a lot of action, a lot of backstory. They could be putting in a lot of backstory, a lot of action, a lot of horror. You see what I'm saying? So It could mean anything at this point. I'm not going to jump the gun until they announce something. But in my eyes, I think that they should reboot it in theme and not in terms of what they already established, because it's going to be quite weird to see that, okay, they have two high production CGI movies that are canon to the Resident Evil series, only for them to reboot it and make something different, and they possibly have to come back and say, well, this is not canon because it's so drastically different. Yeah.
Like, I think, like, it very well could be just they're rebooting the theme, because there was some talk where there's gonna be one more Resident Evil game and the movie. Then after that, if they actually decide to put a stop with the original games, then there was talk about rebooting the game series. How that reboot would go if Capcom can actually get folks who can write and keep it consistent, that's one thing, but only time will tell on that one.
Yeah, and another thing to clarify is that I think you know already, Dom, that the characters they have as the Forerunners are Chris Redfield, Leon S. Kennedy, and Rebecca Chambers. So, it's
my god!
Yeah, I just wanted some clarification on that, because I was hearing various different things, but I wasn't sure what's been officially confirmed. I did think I heard that while it is a sequel to the last movie, it's also a pseudo reboot in that regard.
Yeah, and apparently they do have some good talent coming aboard. They have some people who worked on Ju-On, so it really is prevalent that they are trying to apply some horror to the movie, which I think is a good thing. I think it's only going to help the movies out, because I think everyone can agree that the CGI movies are much better than the live action ones.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Obviously.
Well, I will say, while I was disappointed by the two Resident Evil CGI movies, I did enjoy them a lot more than the live action ones, because it was actual Resident Evil. It was the characters that I was familiar with, and while it might not have been what I exactly wanted, it it was there. It did its job.
Alright, so does anyone else have any opinions on the CGI movies and the new CGI film?
I just
like
think that degradation was good, but I didn't see
You said
damnation,
degradation?
degradation. Well, then again, degradation is what Capcom is doing until they actually decide to pull their heads out there.
or defecating. Shoot.
Either way, it starts with a DE.
Go on, Levy.
That's just it. I just first I think the CGI movies, the first one that they made was good, but the second one it could have been better.
Damnation.
Yeah.
That's funny because it's the other way around with me. I think.
Well, I know I heard the reasons why, because they didn't really cover the side characters all that much.
Well, I wanted to say really quickly that I think that's the other way around for me. I think that Damnation was pretty tolerable, and I think that Degeneration got kind of boring at a certain point.
I'll be a little frank. Saying like these movies are boring is like saying the classics are boring. To me, it's like watching the classics on screen.
Well, I think it's because of the acting. Like, it's not delivered really good.
I thought
I would say
the
it's
only
the
one that
pacing and just the settings, I guess.
Yeah, that's another one too.
Yeah, the
And the lack
acting
of
in
zombies.
Degeneration was kind of wooden.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, for me, Damnation should have just been in like a, I don't know, BSAA movie because it was more gunfire heavy. Really? Like, no, it shouldn't have been a Leon movie. It's bad enough Leon got a lot of spotlight time. I mean, come on, let other characters have time to shine.
Well, this is the thing. Before we move on to the next topic, the rumor was originally that the Damnation movie was going to have Leon fighting in Europe, and the main protagonist really was going to be Billy Chambers and Rebecca. I got that wrong. I said Billy Chambers. Fuck. I'm getting their names mixed up. Billy and
Billy
Rebecca
Cohen.
together in hell. So
Billy Chambers.
Billy Chambers. But Billy and
When did they
Rebecca
get married?
together in the movie, and Leon being sort of a
Rebecca
side
Cohen?
character. So that was the original movie. I got them mixed up. That like, if you see me getting things mixed up, it's obviously because
Hey, I got things messed up too, motherfucker.
it's obviously because I think certain characters are together or something like that, and I just make
Damn it,
Well, hold
Capcom, just have the fuck already.
Yeah, just have them fuck already. They'd really be Billy Chambers at that point.
Just
Billie Jean.
already.
Hey, Rebecca got in those Billie Jeans.
Oh my
Because you know he's not his lover.
She just a girl who claims that I am the one.
Oh Jesus Christ! What have I done?
You set it up, I knock it down.
Yeah.
Okay,
This
before
next
we
one's
move
from
on, real
James.
quick.
But
Okay, well,
really
before we move
quickly,
on, I got to.
I know
throw something out
you
there.
want to move on, Brandon, but just really quickly, what do you guys think of that idea of the original Damnation of having Billy and Rebecca and Leon as a side character? You think
Why
that would
didn't
have
you
been
do
better?
it?
Sounds
Good.
better.
Good. Leon
It
doesn't need all the attention.
Hmm?
Yeah, that would have been a good idea.
Yeah, seriously.
I am
Like,
amazed.
I'm tired
on
of
that.
Leon getting on the
Oh,
spotlight.
okay, guys, real quick.
Yeah.
All right, so I found the file that I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, I was about to talk about that too. There's no indication about gender.
Yeah,
That's good.
yeah. It says I have the means of. This is the Spencer memoir. It says I have the means available to me. I can realize my ambitions thanks to Alex. I lost much in human capital following Umbrella's bankruptcy, but I still have Alex, the best and brightest of them all, and alas, my children. I have faith that if anyone can find a cure for the ailment of time that keeps me from assuming my role as the head of mankind, it is Alex. Alex will find a way. That was it.
Yeah, I read the files carefully too, and there's no indication of the gender.
Isn't
Yeah,
there two
so-
of them? Isn't there one where Spencer's talking
There's
about
three.
Alex? There's three, okay.
Yeah.
And in those three files, there's no indication of the
Yeah,
gender.
there is no gender indication.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because like this first one was basically Spencer hoping that Alex Wesker can find some sort of virus to make him immortal, basically, and no gender indication. And then it's like Alex was apparently instructing Spencer about what to do, and you know the name gets brought up a number of times, but no gender indication. And I think the third one, If I can get it to load.
I
Let's
got
see.
it right here.
Okay, yeah. Now it's like, okay, third one is like Alex was still working on it, but apparently they were pressed for time. And I think by the fourth one, yeah, fourth one, Alex disappeared.
Hmm.
So,
So your
okay.
friend was wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will have to tell Magara that. Unfortunately, there
Yeah,
was
and
no.
she'll be like, "I was wrong."
I was wrong. No.
No,
As long
you
as she doesn't do
can.
nothing, as long as she doesn't do nothing stupid, she'll be fine.
Yeah,
She'll-
she didn't do it. She just sort of disagreed that point heavily when we were in the chat, saying that was one of the things that she got pretty mad over, that they really didn't illustrate that all too well, and said that it was a man from a woman. And since that's wrong,
Unless he's trans.
well, we're not gonna get into that. But
Let's not get into that
Please don't.
conversation, please.
Please
But-
don't.
but you don't want the.
We need to move on with question 13.
Oh, thank God I didn't mention this fucking thing then. All right, good.
It's actually a good way to segue into that, actually.
Yeah.
yeah,
let's-
that was a shitty one. Let's not do that ever again.
Yeah, let's just do question 13 instead. So, question 13 is: will they ever be able to top Albert Wesker as the big bad?
No.
No.
I don't
Nah.
think so.
No, they tried with 4 and it didn't work. They tried with 3 and I don't think it worked.
Nemesis is a big baddie. Then Wesker just pound him into the ground.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, but
I think Alex.
and then-
They tried with Alex Wesker and it just didn't work out.
You know what they tried?
Alex was a clown.
You know what it sounds like they tried to do with Alex? They tried to make her what's known as the anti-Sue character.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause, like-
explain what it is.
the anti.
Okay, like the Mary Sue is basically the character that's practically perfect, right? Perfect in the good sense, but still not very much liked. The anti-Sue, the anti-Sue is basically the practically perfect character, but it's the opposite.
it's for the
instead of-
antagonist, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's something that's just as bad.
So the Martin Sue?
Well, it's still the anti-Sue, but same idea still applies. It's like, because like you could even see it in Spencer's memoirs and Lost in Nightmares, where he was like praising Alex. He was praising Alex like she was going to be the next Jesus.
Yeah, he has a hard on for Alex.
It was doing that in the documentations.
I do have a question about that, dude. Is that why Albert Wesker decides to betray Umbrella?
I don't
Does it-
think so. I
No.
See, we never really understood that. The only thing we really know for sure is that Wesker found out about Spencer's true intentions was basically he was going to use the Wesker children as a means of testing the progenitor virus to make something that could make him effectively immortal. And Wesker found out, killed him, and decided, hey, I'm going to do what he did, but better. Take that, yo, Coot.
Crap, what's his name? Spencer actually made a mistake. If he didn't said something, I forgot what it was, Wesker wouldn't have killed him. Yeah, because the thing that prevented Wesker from killing him is like the reason why all this happened.
Isn't it
It was
because
that-
he cloned
Yeah,
him?
it was
He's a clone.
genetics. It was like
Basically.
genetics reasons, and after whatever happened, what Spencer said, that pretty much triggered Wesker and it killed him.
Yeah, and-
basically the whole thing with the Spencer children is that they had their genetics manipulated.
Yeah, and I wanted to just establish that I think one of the reasons Wesker betrayed Umbrella is because he had another employer and they were offering him something else. So I don't know what the specifics of it was, but because they were offering him a better deal, that's another reason why he decided to spy on the stars and get all the information and combat data for them, because it was always established that he was under another employer and he was double-crossing Umbrella.
You know, one thing that I actually liked about 5 is that they show another company that's sort of like Umbrella. They worked with Umbrella to... Yeah, so, like, I really would... Like, they always hint that in the Resident Evil games, and I really wish we can see, like, these other companies... biological
companies or whatever that are kind of like Umbrella, but or maybe not as bad, but they do pretty evil shit. Like I would like to see that dynamic and see different companies.
That's true,
brought
because
into the forefront.
Most of these companies were behind the scenes. Like, if you remember correctly with Code Veronica, by then Wesker already had his own established task force.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was mostly behind the scenes. So I would love. I mean, at this point, the way with they weaponize the viruses, at this point, it would make sense if other competitors does want a piece of the pie, because they did say that some of these viruses are on the black market and people could buy them in different countries by Resident Evil 5, so it makes more sense if other companies want in on the action when it comes to biological warfare.
You could say that they've been weaponized Venom.
Oh my god.
And then just one other thing, though, it's like, in Resident Evil 2, you find out that Ada's a double agent. She's working for another company, giving them information on Umbrella.
In the first triple agent.
And in Resident Evil 3, we have what the fuck was his name?
Nikolai?
Yeah, Nikolai. You find out Nikolai is working for another employer, and he's off to give off data to them, combat data. And the canon ending, as far as I'm aware, is him actually surviving and leaving Raccoon City. So I'm curious to see if they can maybe bring that back and kind of explain that a little more.
Okay, quick question. Who was that guy in Umbrella Chronicles that Wesker killed? It's like in the fall of Umbrella, where Wesker, Joe, and Chris went to the Umbrella headquarters and take out Umbrella.
I forgot his name, but he's the guy that had the tyrants that were like called Ivans.
Hold up.
Yep.
I should be able to find that in a matter of minutes.
Yeah, hold that thought on that one, because
Didn't that game also retcon the lasers from the movie, the live-action movie?
Yes, they did.
Sort of.
There was a scene where Chris and Jill were jumping through lasers.
Hey man, I don't get what they did that for. Chris Redfield just do a shockwave with his hands.
Well, Leon kind of does that in Resident Evil Revelations 2 raid mode.
Okay, Sergei Vladimir.
Yeah. I had to look that up too, because I was like, yeah, I do remember that dude. They actually, like, Umbrella Chronicles was kind of weird. Like, they made some stuff non-canon with the whole, Chris was with Jill the entire time. But then they made some stuff canon where they were investigating this Russian base.
Just for more value into the game.
Yeah.
Like the reason they had to put Chris and Jill, and the reason they had to put the characters' campaigns together is so that it could tie in more consistently to really give the story a better flow. Which to me wasn't. To me, it wasn't bad.
I actually kind of like how they did it though. It's kind of like if Resident Evil had common sense, they sit together.
Yeah, because they always split up every fucking turn.
Yeah, it was like the first two games they had it to where when you play as one character or the other, you wind up going most of the same path anyway.
Exactly. Yep. So what's the point in splitting up? Yeah. Like, that's why I hope they fix some of that in Resident Evil 2 remake.
Yeah.
But
so,
anyway.
Are we going to move on to question number 14, or are you guys?
Yeah, are we now?
Yeah. we did diverge a lot. I mean, it's a discussion, so I'm not surprised that happens. I will say they're never going to top Wesker as a big bad. With what they did with 6 with Derek Simmons, it just wasn't working for me.
You mean the Transformer?
The guy who his whole motivation was to get in Ada's ass, so that was it. That was literally it.
He wanted that compound coochie.
He wanted it so bad that he decided to not only fawn over the egg roll, but he decided to create another egg roll, which was Carla Redeems.
And
the fact that he rewrote his wife's DNA.
Oh yeah, I remember he did that. Holy crap!
I just wanna ask one other thing. This is something that bothers me about Resident Evil 6 that I forgot to mention earlier when we were talking about it. Does Chris ever find out that that wasn't Ada?
No,
Because that's
no,
like the
he
biggest
doesn't.
plot hole in Resident Evil 6.
No, he doesn't.
And you know what's stupid though? How did none of the characters notice that Ada was wearing different clothing every single time?
That's the same thing I'm saying.
Yeah,
Because they're stupid.
this was like
And
that was like the
Evil
biggest
5.
plot hole in that game.
I was like, how in the hell does she have time to change clothes when she's being pursued?
And the same goes for Leon. Like, what's it, Ada? I saw you die. What the heck?
Doesn't
I heard
Ada
you
also
killed.
have? Don't Ada and Carla have like different like accents too?
Yes.
No, they.
Well, most, somewhat, but not entirely, unfortunately. Because remember, like I said, dude changed his wife's DNA.
Yeah,
But
and they
he
do have
really
the
want
same
the Ada
voice
cosplay.
actor, so yeah.
He really want the Ada cosplay, doesn't he?
Oh my god.
It actually got so bad that she actually believed herself to have been Ada at one point.
Yeah, and I can't believe that at the end, Simmons got so delusional that he thought that Carla was Ada. It's just a clusterfuck, so we need to move on to question number 14. So,
Yeah.
what do you think of the Usanat compared to Nemesis?
Well,
I
I gotta go
think
first.
a knockoff Nemesis.
Well, I will say this though, from a lore perspective, Usanix is far superior to Nemesis. I know people like Nemesis
Unfortunately.
more, but let's be a little honest here. He is the superior being.
Cause yeah, especially
Okay,
like
but-
I
Yeah,
know
consider that-
you like Nemesis more, but he's still the superior thing, like that
I-
from a
yeah,
lore perspective.
I know, but joking, like, to throw in a joke, I mean, Oosterhex doesn't wear a bitchin' ass leather coat, does he?
No. No, he's shirtless.
Yeah,
And
he
he
doesn't
doesn't
carry
carry
a
a cannon
rocket.
now, does he?
Yeah, he
Well, he
doesn't
kinda
carry.
does.
He doesn't even carry a rocket launcher with infinite rockets.
I
Exactly.
think he could actually do that if he wanted to, because he
Well,
has
you-
a.
well,
he-
you- Well, it could suck a dick because Nemesis wasn't in Resident Evil 6. Now was he?
Yo, Usternet was exposing his mutated man breasts.
Yep. My man nipples.
Oh,
Wait, you mean that retarded chromosome?
Dear God.
Oh man, I can't take it. I think that we need to move on to 15.
Yeah, let's move on. I think we've stalled. We stalled our way to fucking long.
That should make me laugh too hard, but I think that Usnak had more tools, but at the end of the day, I think that he
It was
was
Resident Evil 6. Move on.
far superior.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
so let's move on. It's Resident Evil 6. So we have number 15. Would you like a hunk-based Resident Evil game?
No, he's filthy
Yes.
casual. I'm just kidding. Yeah, he should.
I kind of
Should
want
get-
to because he seems like an interesting character.
Same here. I think that they could do a lot with him, even though Capcom claims that he's just one-dimensional.
Can I
make
piggyback
him-
off of that?
Yeah, go ahead, Dom.
You know, I was watching Revelations HD streams from Capcom over on Twitch when that was being like prepped up and everything for a release on PS3 and Xbox 360 and I think PC as well. I remember Greg saying like, "Oh, well, Hunk is cool, so like, why don't they have a game for him?" And then he backtracks, and then he's like, I think it'd be a mistake if they did that. Kind of like how how Konami did with Metal Gear Solid and Johnny. I think they made a game off of him or something like that.
Oh, they did.
Yeah. That is exactly what Greg Moore said. It's not a word for
Gregaman?
word Krog, but
Greg
word.
I almost thought you said Greg Miller. That's
No, Greg Moore from Capcom.
Gregaman, our Greg.
Yeah.
That figure.
Greg.
First off, I just want to say, like, and I'll let you go again in a second, but, like, first off, I just want to say that a hunk-based game would be awesome. It would explain a lot of things behind the scenes and get a different perspective on, the Resident Evil story. Like, it basically give you a different perspective, so to speak. And not to mention, if they were going to bring in other characters per se that may have worked with Hunk, it would be a very interesting dynamic to see how he works with others.
Yeah, that would be kind of interesting because people say that he's like you're one dimensional. Why don't you give him some backstory to why he got that name, the Human Union Not Killed?
Is that
Yes.
Yeah, give like kind of. It's kind of like what you're gonna do if they actually would have done with the boss in Metal Gear Solid 3. Like, explain more about this character. What makes this character unique?
Yeah,
She's a woman.
Once you press that on,
Yeah, that would be kind of dumb if it made. Well, then again, they did it with they made Hunk into a woman in one of the raid modes. But
that was Revelations 1.
yeah,
That's just a skin for.
I know.
that was
face
just a
Rachel.
skin. But once you press that on, you could make an interesting character with what you have. All you just have to do is add layers. I think that there was an interview that they talked about with Daredevil Season 2. It's unrelated, but they said that what they basically did is they took what was good, what worked with the first season, and they put layers on top of it. And I think if you put layers on top of something, it could create interesting dynamics.
Ooh. If they do make a Hunk-based game, you know what they could do if they actually have like an exclusive thing with Sony.
Yeah.
Make it with Umbrella Chronicles.
Have Hellgast costumes for him.
Well,
I
can see that.
don't make Brandon fat.
Because
Like exclusive Sony costumes.
He looks at like someone from the Hellgast army. It would make sense, and it would give the PS4 more sales.
Dude, you're gonna make all our PlayStation fans Jews, man.
You know what? I'll make it even better.
Well, next thing you
But
know,
then
they should be running around like Uncharted characters now.
I'm gonna make the Xbox fans to come to it. If it's for Xbox, make it
Halo.
Make it Carmine from Gears of War.
Mm-hmm.
Give everyone
Halo.
Lancers.
No, Halo. No, I would say Carmine from Gears of War.
All right.
The guy that had the mask on. That's it.
All right, we need to move on to question number 16.
Did Brian?
Oh,
go
and make
for
it Samus
15?
Aran.
Oh yeah, Brian. Did you go?
I said yes. A hunt-based game would be great, provided it was done right. That's all.
Yeah, like the way that I mentioned.
All right, we got number 16.
Samus Aran for the Wii U version.
Fuck off, Levy. Number 16. Do you think characters should make an appearance in another game, or it strictly be mercenary mode characters despite being a bad Resident Evil game? For example, the USS members from Operation Raccoon City.
They can keep them.
Well, I'm gonna be on the record and say just use some of the bad characters for mercenaries, but then again, use all the bad characters for mercenaries, because how would that work if you use the USS members and any others?
I don't mean to cut you off.
Unless like in Resident Evil 7 they use them as like they're hunting down the survivors of Raccoon City or something.
I don't mean to cut you off here, but like
No, I was
when we were talking about the last question, 15, talking about a hunk-based game, I think that like going back on what I was saying about like seeing how hunk works with others, Vector, he's the stealth-based class in Operation Raccoon City. He does know Hunk. He was trained directly by Hunk. So I'd like to see maybe a dynamic between the two characters if he were to come back in a separate game.
You know what? Now that you said that and I think about it more, I think it would kind of work to like have a character from that in it.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't know. Oh, I still have Vietnam flashbacks about that game.
I wouldn't mind, because we already seen stuff from bad games, character from bad games, be used in other games. Like, I think some of them are in Project Cross Zone games. I think that Ruth McGivern was in a game not too long ago. I don't know what it was.
He was in Namco Cross Capcom.
Yeah, Namco Cross Capcom. That's what I was thinking.
And he was from the original Resident Evil game he was in was Resident Evil Dead Aim.
Dead Aim was not the greatest from what I heard. So
or Biohazard Gun Survivor 4 if you're in Japan.
Yeah, so I personally don't mind seeing these characters and mercenaries. Who knows? They could be fun characters to play with, considering that, mercenaries is really, your avatar has a certain loadout and you go around and you kill stuff. I don't think that there's going to be any heavy plot elements given in mercenaries.
Didn't Mercenaries 3D also give you the option to make a custom loadout?
I believe so. Yes.
It's kind of, sort of.
Cause I remember one of my friends told me, oh, you can give Hunk Chris's loadout or some other stuff like that, but I think it's what Brian said is kind of sort of, so it's sort of limited. Like you can't fully customize it the way you want, but it is there. So
does anyone else have any thoughts about that?
Yeah.
Like to me, if the bad characters from the characters from like bad Resident Evil games, or if they're just bad characters in general, if they were used in Mercenaries mode but not necessarily like the main storyline of the game, that's fine to me, because if anybody remembers in Resident Evil 5 with the bonus content that they brought up, when they had Mercenaries Reunion, they had Etzella Guione. And
I was looking at her boobs most of the time.
Oh, at least he's honest.
Yeah. I mean, let's be real. We all were. But here's the funny thing though. She actually had some decent weapons. It was her melee attacks that were so funny. Because it was like,
Oh, you mean the big slap?
there was a slap. There was that awkward kick she did. She did that awkward kick like she was a horse turning around just to kick.
I think my favorite was when she takes out the vial or whatever, the needle.
Oh yeah.
And she sticks him in the neck and she infects him.
Or where she just grabs whatever enemy she shot by the ear and just slaps them.
Yeah, that's the super bitch slap.
Oh god.
Hey, you know the great cameos for Resident Evil? Dino Crisis cast.
Who?
The Dino Crisis cast, like Regina.
Oh,
for sure.
Like any crossovers or cameos from other Capcom games?
Yeah.
Why don't you do a hunter?
At least
Why don't you do a hunter from Monster Hunter then?
I think the most that would make sense is probably costumes.
Yeah. What they did
costumes would make sense. I mean, that would be kind of
cameo costume for Jill.
Oh my god in heaven!
No, she's more of a Chun-Li.
No,
can Jill get her Regina costume?
No,
again?
give that to Sheva.
You guys are only saying Cammy because of her ass.
No.
No,
yes.
Tammy.
I said Cammy, bitch.
I thought you said Tammy.
I said Cammy.
You said Tammy.
No, Cammy.
We should probably move on before this becomes a slander fest.
You know what would be cool?
Brand likes a bendo. Move on.
I think it would be cool to have Monster Hunter costumes if that was the case. That would be badass. Like kill zombies with Rathalos armor. That's just me. Fuck you guys.
Okay, real quick. No, Chun-Li would work for Ada because she's Asian and she's Chinese.
No. Yeah, but she can't. Well, yeah, that's true. She could probably do the hurricane kick.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind moves coming from certain characters like they did with... I think they did this with Dead Rising or whatever. I'm not too sure, but...
I think, Dead Rising 3, that crazy long title that I don't know.
That expansion, that stupid parody making
that was
fun
free.
of themselves.
That was only free for the Xbox One.
Yeah.
Which I hate.
So, I think that moves coming from certain characters like Shoryuken and stuff like that, it'd be pretty wild.
In before Stinger.
That would be awesome.
In before Stinger.
Okay, let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on to number 17. Are there any mechanics or items that should be brought back from previous titles? I think that pretty much me and the Bio Devil podcast are pretty much going to say the gunpowder mechanic from Resident Evil 3.
Yep, and
everything from Resident Evil 3.
That was
2
awesome.
and 3. And then I would argue also the Resident Evil remake had some great mechanics.
Everything that worked from every Resident Evil game ever.
Yeah, defensive items were pretty good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the attaché case thing worked pretty well, because at the very least it allowed you to really think out how you could really take out crowds or even take out a boss if you need to. That's just me though.
Mm-hmm.
That's just you. I got nothing for that.
Am I the only one that wants to see poisoning and blue herbs come back?
Yeah, no.
Just, but
Okay.
let me explain. The reason why I wanted to come back is because it was an interesting mechanic, and there was, the problem with it is that it was kind of a nuisance, and there wasn't really like a way where it made sense for you to go get one and go try to deal with it or anything like that. And I think if they were to kind of work with that and give you more instances where you could potentially get poisoned, it could work.
I think they should actually revamp the orb. I'm not orb, darn it, herb system. Like, if they bring a purple herb, maybe it should give you resistance to poisoning and of
That
course
was in
give you more
Gaiden,
health.
by the way.
Maybe for like a slight period of time, like just as a way to not make it overpowered. They can give you resistance for like a slight period of time, especially if there is long backtracking. Because I don't mind poisoning coming back. I do see that it's an annoyance. But at the same time, it's like they started to make it a bit easier by putting blue herbs in between everything. And it just got to a point where it's like,
It kind of tells you don't get poisoned or you die. Simple as that.
Yeah. It got to a point where it's like, oh, well, there's these blue herbs.
Oh,
here,
wait.
it's easier.
You know what else should bring back? The virus poisoning. Like they did in Resident Evil 3 for Jill.
That was also an outbreak, and which the developers of Slant 6 didn't know that, and they were going around saying that Operation Raccoon City was the first to do it, but it wasn't.
Yeah, like bring virus poisoning back.
Honestly, they
add up
yeah,
with purple herb.
purple or blue herbs, or herbs, that would make sense as to why you'd get a quote unquote T virus infection or whatever.
Okay, quick question before I'll let you move on, Dom. Have you guys noticed that the stem of some of the herbs have, like, for the green one, I believe, or the blue, whichever. If you look at the stem is for the blue herb. The stem is green. So does that imply like the blue herb turns to green or vice versa? Same things for the red one.
The older games, or
Yeah, for the older games, you see the stem, you see a different color.
I think that was just to put a little bit of color into them. So it's
I imagine for like I guess a lore perspective, they do change after a certain period of time.
Probably.
Are we still on the 17th question?
Yes, we are. We're still in the 17 question.
All
Sorry
right.
about that.
Well,
I had a little
that's
bit
okay.
of
Well,
background noise.
I went to the bathroom real quick, but I had nothing for that, to be honest.
Yeah. So if anyone has nothing for question 17, I guess we can move on to 18.
Yeah.
So
All right.
question 18 is that, do you think there are any Resident Evil novels that have some potential to gain game adaptations? Now, I'm going to opt out of this question. For the people who want to answer it, go ahead, because I haven't read much of the Resident Evil novels.
Same here. I got
I'll-
nothing on it.
I'll opt out of
Okay.
that too, because I hadn't read any either. I think it was Dawn that
Okay.
has.
Okay.
I haven't read any, but I know about one in particular. But I'll let Brian go
There's-
first.
There's a lot I can say about some of these, pretty much about all of them. Okay, first off, the S.D. Perry novels that star Rebecca, I'll say that for the most part, if Capcom managed to find a way to make them fit where Rebecca doesn't come off as as the creator's pet or Mary Sue, it could work, because we haven't seen Rebecca in years. It's like we finally got the CG movie featuring her, but that's pretty much it. The rest of it is like, where has she been?
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much it. Now they got like books based on some of the games, but that's another thing. Now, then you got, dear God, and then you got novelizations of the movies, the live action movies. Now, as far as the movies go, the movies pretty much suffer from the movies, and the books would pretty much suffer. They suffer the same issues, which is that they have a female protagonist, and she did good surviving in the first Crisis, but then they amp her up from like 10 to 1,000, and suddenly she's looking to be the most powerful person on the planet, and or basically everybody's just talking about how she's our only hope, she's the one who can save us, she's our salvation. It even got to, like, even in the movies, and I know I can say this because I know nobody wanted to see Resident Evil Afterlife, but it got to a point where Wesker had to explain that the T virus made him what he is, somewhat similar to the games, just with the T virus. But then it was like the T virus is basically fighting Wesker for control, which is why he had to eat people in order to keep staying relatively human. And so by basically eating Alice, who still has the virus in her, because the virus bonded with her so perfectly that she has her powers, but she doesn't mutate. Basically, if he were to eat her, then he wouldn't have any problems dealing with the T virus. And it's like, as far as what these books have is like, they pretty much, unfortunately, cover everything from A to Z in the games. So the books, it depends on what exactly the books are talking about. If it was stuff that Rebecca was doing in the novel she's featured in, it could work as long as they tone down the Mary Sue-ness. Other than that, wouldn't touch them.
I definitely agree. I
I'm
think
just
the
back. What did I miss?
we were just talking about the novels, and you know, we were getting
how much we don't read because we're on.
I've never read. I would read them if I ever saw them or got my hands on them, but I just never read them.
Truth be told, I didn't even think that was they actually made books for that.
Yeah.
See, I didn't either. I had to find this out through research.
Mhm.
It's like even when you read the plot, even when you read the plot, like the whole entire summary or synopsis, whatever you want to call it, you can just tell when it's just like, sounds interesting, but this sounds like it sounds like they're turning up this character to be. It's like they make a character, and the character supposedly sets all of these standards, but then when you really look at the character and you look at the standards, it's like that character can't fit those standards. It's like when you look at Buffy the Vampire Slayer with the books and the movies. It's like when it came to Buffy, it was like one girl in all the world. Buffy the Vampire Slayer is the longest lived Slayer to have ever lived so long. But it's like, first of all, the only reason she even lived so long was because she had people helping her. Number two, if she was left alone, especially against at least a number of villains that were either equal to her or stronger than her, without any backup, she'd be dead.
Wait,
And
what
it's
about
like-
Buffy? I'm sorry, I dozed out there for a second.
Yeah, like,
Yeah, we are diverging again.
Um,
talks about
I-
books is boring.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want to briefly say this, that as far as the novels go, I haven't read them, but I do know about the Caliban Cove novel. That's it's supposed to feature Rebecca, and I think I did do a video on this. If they were to make the next Revelation starring Rebecca, I would really hope that they would call that one Revelation 0 and have that take place either in during the Caliban Cove novel, or just make a new game that's taking place before the original Revelations.
because it would make sense for the most part.
And it'd be kind of a throwback to Resident Evil 0, so to speak.
Yeah. But it's like I said, as long as they don't do the thing where they amp her up to be so awesome, but then you find out she's really not. It was just the creator or writer or whatever just trying to
Fanboy.
pass off. Yeah, like they're trying to pass off the illusion that that's what it is, but it's not. And that's the big problem. That's the big problem that the live action movies suffer. And that's the major problem that the S.D. Perry books will suffer for anybody who reads them.
Who's reads?
Who does read nowadays?
I don't know what a book is. All
I
right,
still do.
So
I still do, but it just depends.
we're gonna move on to number 19. Any expectations for the Resident Evil remake? And let me stop typing, you piece of shit.
Damn it.
I just want to say that I think that history is repeating itself. I think that Capcom is going to release 3 Resident Evil games. We're going to see Umbrella Corps, Resident Evil 2 Remake, and Resident Evil 7 all come out in the same year, and Resident Evil 2 Remake is probably going to be the one that is a decent game.
Yeah, it's probably gonna sell well. You know what they could do for Resident Evil 2, the remake? Make it over the shoulder view.
We did
Like,
talk
give-
about
give-
that earlier.
Like,
I said they,
give that option for the second one, for the remake.
I still think it should be optional in my opinion.
Yeah, just if you could, just make the game with both. I mean, if Grand Fandango did it, why not this one?
Yeah, I think it should be both because then you appease both sides really who think that there'll be one side that think that they want really classic Resident Evil, they want to play like that, they want to function like that, they want tank controls, and then you're gonna have another side that'd be like, well, that's kind of outdated, so the over-the-shoulder thing would really work best. So it's best to just give them both options. So really, no one will be complaining if it came to that case. It'll be all about preference, and with what people prefer, it will be there.
Okay, if they're gonna do tank controls, they should do like what they did for the remake. The analog stick should be the free controls, while the D-pad is tank.
What do you think about this, Brian?
Hard to say. I mean, like I said, for me, over the shoulder would be fine. The only thing that I want them to avoid is doing the Resident Evil thing with the left analog stick. Like if they do it more, like they can do the thing where it's like when you have to aim and shoot, they do that kind of tank style. I get it. Just keep it over the shoulder. But when you're just walking around trying to find stuff, keep it more Resident Evil 4.
I think that with Resident Evil 2 Remake, they definitely should have all the stuff that was present in the original, like defense items, the fact that you can do the 180 turn, all that stuff. All that stuff I think was really good, but just add on top of that, because one of the unique things that Resident Evil Remake did was they added new layers to the game, which was they added some new stuff with the story that was already established. They added some new monsters and creatures. They added some new areas that weren't even in the original. So I think that would be an interesting premise for them to continue, is that they should add a lot of new stuff on top of the old stuff to make it more interesting and dynamic.
Also, they need to fix the two-player thing, because you're going to the exact same level. Like, granted, I give Resident Evil 1 credit. They actually did some changes and remixes, but in essence, you go into the same level, exact same level as one character or the other. So they got to do some more diversity in that.
I don't know how I feel about it, because then you have people complaining, oh, they're changing scenario A and scenario B. I think that you should have different areas.
There's one scenario and that's two scenario. They need to be different.
Yeah, I know, but I think that what I was getting to was, I think that they need to have different areas for both modes to make them new and unique. So it's not really feeling like you're going through the same area over and over again. There should be new areas specific to only those scenarios.
They could potentially do a hybrid of scenarios A and B for both characters, eliminating, having 4 scenarios, but at the same time making it a different experience so that it's new and different for anyone who's returning to the game.
Yeah. Like Dom, explain that a little bit for us, like the hybrid thing.
So Resident Evil 2 has an A and B scenario for each character, and essentially the A and B scenarios, they take you through the same thing, depending on the character you're going through. So both Leon A and Claire A, you're pretty much going through the same thing. The only difference is what happens within the stories. And if we were going to do a hybrid, so to speak, between both Leon A and B and then Claire A and B, what they could do is take the canon portions of both A and B scenarios and try to mix them together to make it into one scenario for each character. So while you would effectively, eliminate having 4 scenarios, at the same time, you'd also be making a somewhat of a new experience.
I kind of just want the scenario system personally, but I see what you're coming from on that.
Yeah,
Just,
I kind of don't mind either way, just as long as they are as originally intended. Because scenario A, of course, is different from scenario B, but I guess you could kind of say that outside of some changed story elements, it's pretty much the same in reverse for that character. They do need to make it different, even if you don't go in the canon route.
I'm just curious though, how long will the scenarios be? Because scenario B is shorter than scenario A.
I would put it like this. I don't know. See, if they do add new areas and new stuff to Resident Evil 2 Remake, that could pad the length. Because it sort of did for the remake for 1, like, it was kind of longer. You actually went back to the mansion an additional time, so I think you go back to the mansion 3 times as opposed to 2.
You remember, and I don't mean to cut you off, but you remember the Resident Evil 1.5 demo, how that has locations that don't make it into the full version of Resident Evil 2?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
What if they
That'd be
brought in
great.
things like the shooting range and some of the offices that you never get to actually see?
I'd
One
be
thing
all
is
for
though,
that.
the police station is a museum, so they gotta be completely redo the police station in 2.
Oh, are you talking about from 1.5? I just mean like bringing in certain areas from that 1.5 demo just to quote unquote put in new areas.
And did they originally say that the police station was a museum?
Yeah, it is.
Huh. I don't know, like, maybe, I will say, maybe, like, a sub-branch or something like that, where you can go in there and you can roam in there and you can see, like, oh, now they got a little shooting squad or whatever. I mean, the place is as complex as it could be in the original Resident Evil 2, so I don't see why they couldn't add or expand new areas, to be honest.
I mean, what police station doesn't have a bathroom or a fucking shooting range? That makes no sense, Capcom.
Good question. Where's the bathroom at?
I guess people gotta piss in their hands. But
Be a real man. Do
Piss
it.
in their hands or a cream egg?
Levy just made it worse, so
Yikes.
if anyone doesn't have anything else to say on question 19, we can move on to...
Please go on.
Yeah, we can move to question 20. And this is thoughts on the future of the franchise. Fuck what Levy said about Capcom executives and prostitutes. I saw what you were writing.
No, you didn't. You don't know that was me.
I do know.
Bullshit.
Thoughts on future of the franchise.
If so far the franchise right now is like there are some things that are good about it, but I think the remake's gonna pull them out of the water. But if they don't like wise up from what they did from Resident Evil 6,
They'll just tank hard.
yes, and if they make it episodic, that would be even worse.
History repeats itself from
If it-
bad business practices.
Come
Like-
on,
like-
Capcom. Guys, don't do that shit.
Like the first Revelations being episodic wasn't bad, but then it was like when they did Revelations 2, it was like, okay, you got one more time before we come knocking on your doors and plant our feet up your collective backsides.
And they cut the game up in the second game, so it's either you were going to get on that disc or you were going to have to wait and play it and find out gradually, which is what I think I would like to say that's what some people did and some other people decided to wait. I don't think that will work personally. Like, imagine if they did that for Resident Evil 2 Remake. That would just destroy the game.
Oh yeah, people would just destroy Capcom for that.
Exactly.
And I mean, as far as like, you know, Revelations 1, the reason why it was set up as an episodic thing was because it was a 3DS game originally, so it makes sense why it was, you know, all the chapters were shorter.
And then should Capcom ever tank Maximilian Doom, we have to find another job.
Wait, what?
They pretty much. They'll probably have to prostitute themselves for money.
Oh, yeah. Maximilian. Yeah, I love the guy.
Brandon, what are your thoughts on the future of the franchise?
I think they're doing fine so far if they continue doing what they're doing. But no more Resident Evil 6 or just get rid of Umbrella Chronicles.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in unison with everyone else. I think that as long as they don't fuck up, that'll be pretty much fine. At the same time, if they stick to this formula of releasing bad content, Umbrella Corps, if they stick to
DMC.
that, that too. If they stick to that formula and not really listen to feedback, because they did a good job by listening to fan feedback on the Resident Evil 2 remake, they need to adhere to that, listen to the fans, and also try to make new and unique things. And I think that'll be one of the things that saves this series is building on new and unique things to save it from the mediocrity. Because I hate to see it go down the mediocre route of Resident Evil 6 constantly over and over again. It's like you have to do something different outside of these third-person generic shooters, and the way to go is obviously horror, new concepts, and new ideas that people will love and enjoy.
Indeed.
And let's not forget, make it as god awful as fucking Operation Raccoon City.
Well, let's kick on the blame there. Development.
Yeah. But anyways, I think we're done with this question.
Yeah, that's
I just want to
number
say
20.
that, joking aside, I think the best thing Capcom could do is just listen to the fan base and try to do the best they can in terms of delivering a product. And I mean, if they're still unsure, just release an HD remaster of a good Resident Evil game or a fully fledged remake.
Yeah, I would say test the water for this, see how it goes, and if Resident Evil 2 remake makes you a lot of money, then roll in that moolah and make a Resident Evil 3 remake. I mean, what could hurt?
What could possibly go wrong?
What is a Capcom?
Let me tell you exactly how it can go wrong. Nah, we ain't got that kind of time.
Yeah. So let's move on to question number 21, and that is, what is your expectation for Resident Evil 7? Where do you think they can go from after Resident Evil 6?
I think
back to the roots.
that's one.
I
also
want
said-
them to retcon 6 and
Also-
a bit of
That
Revelations
is never
2.
gonna happen.
Also, like I said, don't make it episodic, and don't tread the waters of Resident Evil 6, and definitely don't go Operation Raccoon City on us.
Like I just don't see them. If it ever happened, I don't see them retconning 6, because they are really trying hard to hammer in our brains that Resident Evil 6 is canon. Hard.
Just like how they try to shove down
You know,
DMC
if they're
down our
going, you know,
throats.
Yep.
If you're going to retcon 6, they need to like remake it. Like that's the only way for them
Or-
to do it. Like repel the sin.
And I don't see them
I
doing
want
that.
them to retcon most. If they want it to be canon, that's fine. But I want them to like retcon most of it, just so that like a lot of the ridiculous things that happen in that game just are not
Because the
considered
story
canon.
is a mess in that game.
Like, can we only have Leon's portion to be canon and everything else just non-canon?
That's just fanboying Dom.
Yeah, I don't see that happen. I think that they could build off the incident. Now you have the C virus existing out there. You know, you have a chance to make all these clones. You can make all these crazy things with.
I think it's a great opportunity to develop more in Jake.
Yeah, and,
Like-
and the main thing that I think that they really should make a villain that capitalizes on Chris's fear, because what I'm getting in those documents from Resident Evil 6 is that the main thing Chris fears is that there's going to be another Wesker in the future eventually.
Even after he killed him.
Yeah.
But that's a good point though. Like, what if there's another tyrant that is worse than Wesker? How can Chris deal with that?
Yeah,
You kill him.
but I think it's all gonna build on this immortality virus that's floating around out there in ether, and I think it's gonna build into one big climax from there. So I think that they should just go all out, go crazy as they possibly can with the story, if it's especially supposedly gonna be the final chapter. But at the same time, at least make the game coherent and easy to follow along with, so that it's good, it's great, and every Resident Evil always stars out in the mainline series after each other. So I don't think that they should piggyback off of Resident Evil 6 way too much. They should just use what's established from there and try to build a better story.
So do you mean where we get to see Jake cosplaying as an Assassin's Creed character at the end?
Yes.
I don't know why.
Fair's fair, kid.
Yeah, the end credits of Resident Evil 6, they really tried that with Jake. They really wanted him to be a central character, but I'm not feeling
He
it.
just isn't.
Yeah, I'm not feeling that at all. I would rather it be either a new cast of characters along with returning or a returning member.
I'm going to bring up Devil May Cry here, but I'll be right back.
Stop it.
Yeah, his family's yelling at him, so someone else continue.
I'll be right back.
You know, I'm gonna bring up something about Devil May Cry and Jake after this whole discussion. So, yeah.
Yeah, what you mean, douchebag Jake being similar to Dante?
Good.
No, I meant Dante. But I'm surprised they didn't give him a Dante costume for Mercenaries.
Ooh. Well, he was a douchebag initially, and then he had a big old change of heart.
At least Jake is a more tolerable character. I will give him that.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. He's not too bad, but at the same time, I just don't see him in the shoes of main central protagonist. I think that personally, Resident Evil 6 drained that well dry because once the C virus were cured, and that's it, and you see him going on and kicking ass and being a vigilante against all these viruses, that should be just it. I don't see him being as... Since Chris and Leon was in the field longer, I just don't see him being as pertinent as those two.
Unless if they did like an entire rehaul of his character and just, updated him.
Or made him more meaningful or something like that, or hell, if there was this Alex Wesker plotline going on where she switched minds with Natalie. Maybe there could be something going on there between her and Jake, since they are pretty much the last Weskers out there.
There's a writing trope that basically describes Jake. It's called the Chekhov's gun, and it's basically this: the term has come to mean insignificant object that later turns out to be important. Like a character finds a mysterious necklace that's the source of the doomsday device or whatever, but at the time of finding said object, it doesn't seem like it's important. Essentially, there's something important to the story, and it's found out later, but initially it's just like, why do we care about you? And it's one of those things is like, okay, the website says a lot of the phrase Chekhov guns synonymous with foreshadowing. While they are related, that's not what the key meaning of the phrase is. Because again, Jake being there, while it was important, we don't really know this until later in his story arc, and we don't know it until much later in other people's story arcs. So yeah, it's like...
when they find out he's Wesker's son, and then they found out that he has antibodies to C virus, it's like, oh shit, we better get Jake ASAP.
And then it's like, protect Jake, protect Jake, protect Jake, please, please, please.
Yeah, that's pretty much the end game of that game.
Yeah, please.
So let's see. Are we done with question number 21?
I believe we are.
All right, we can move to question number 22 then. Who are your favorite characters from the Resident Evil verse?
I've said mine earlier, which is Leon, but if I gotta add another one, Barry. Leon and Barry for me.
I like Leon.
But if I had to say a female character, Rebecca.
For females, I'm gonna say Jill and Claire. For males, I'm gonna say Leon and Wesker.
Oh, why the fuck you lying? You know you lying. I know you like Ashley. Don't fucking deny it.
I don't. Ashley sucks. You're reaching, asshole.
How am I reaching? You know it to be true.
Because she sucks. She's the most annoying character in that game.
But yeah, she quote unquote sucks. All right.
Except
why she wanted that goddamn overtime?
I'm about to say, except those ballistics, no one really cares about her.
For me, I have 4 personal favorites, and those are Barry, Hunk, Jill, and Ada. I mean, I really like those characters. I really feel as though Barry should have gotten, more time
so to speak. I wish he was playable in the Resident Evil remake. I'm glad he was finally playable in a decent Resident Evil game, Revelations 2.
Like, if you
But,
saw
yeah.
how awesome he was in Mercenaries Reunion, you were just like, wow.
I ain't can headbutt people's heads off.
Yeah. And then even though his personal magnum isn't like a weapon you could use most of the time, it's still one of his attacks. And it works.
What question are we on now?
We're on
we are-
question 22. What
I
are your
need to
favorite
go
characters
back.
from the Resident
I
Evil
need
verse?
to actually go back on something real quick. Before I left, it's about Jake Miller.
Go ahead.
I was going to compare him to Nero because he is a shoehorn character that's related to one of the main characters of the series, i.e., Virgil. Now, the thing that bothers me is like the connection on how Virgil and Nero father and son is like kind of inconsistent with everything else involving the character of Virgil and the whole lore.
I guess you could kind of say the same for Jake and Wesker, considering the
At
fact
least
that
with Jake and Wesker, this happened before, so I guess he boned a woman and just love.
yeah, but still, this guy was
just-
a freaking egomaniacal, asshole.
Exactly. They basically like shoehorning people just like to live on a legacy of a character that people like so much. It's kind of like a wrong approach.
Yeah, I just think that, I don't know. I think that they were basically, they needed Wesker back in. They even said this in Developer Diaries, that they were actually thinking of bringing Wesker back for Resident Evil 6. Then they say, oh wait, we killed him off in the last game, so that'd be kind of stupid. So, how about we just make him have an offspring? And they thought that was a good idea. I shit you not.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have killed him
At
in
least
Resident
they
Evil 5.
could make an excuse like maybe Wesker survived.
But here's the thing,
Like they can
In
use
lava though?
No. This is the thing. They originally there's just a lot of stuff floating out there in the Resident Evil 5 beta. They didn't kill Wesker off actually. That section where he falls off the plane, that was supposedly going to be the last time you see him in Resident Evil 5, and it's implied that he actually got away. They said that the final boss was going to be a Ouroboros monster. Now, I will say that will have less impact on the story, considering you're just fighting a random monster, and it's not going to really have as big as an impact as killing Wesker. But at the same time, it's like you could have saved him for the next game. He could have been behind the scenes.
they could actually make the excuse like Wesker survived the lava, thanks to the virus, maybe it wrapped around him to save him or something.
That's hard to defend because I
this
saw
is not
rockets
the
go through his head.
This is not this. No, actually, the rocket went behind him.
They say they went through his head, so.
No, that was stupid because I seen a cutscene. Rockets went behind him and blew up in the lava. No, jumped on top.
Yeah, one goes behind him and one goes beside him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but
So
a
the
lot of
rockets
people
didn't
say
directly
they
hit.
went through his face. It was
No,
just badly
they are
animated.
blind.
It was badly animated because it looks like his head either disappears or he does a quick duck.
Yes. Oh crap.
You definitely see how the rockets get to his face, and then there's that weird little flicker or blur or something. You're just like, and then it just blows up, and that was it, and they escape, and you're just like, what happened to his face? Did the rockets just knock his head off or what?
No, the rockets bounced off his head and he got killed.
K.O.
In a volcano of all places.
Yep.
I know, right?
He didn't get KO like Sagata, unfortunately, when Ryu did that shuriken to the chest, but
Or Kazuya took a dip into the lava.
a man could only dream. So, we were basically on question 22 when you were gone, Brandon, and that is, what is your favorite Resident Evil character? I think we all answered besides you.
What are you guys' answers?
We all have different answers, really. We could
Sorry.
reiterate them if you like.
I said Barry, Hunk, Jill, and Ada.
I'm surprised you didn't say Leon.
I like Leon, but he's not my favorite.
I like a number of people. I like some of the original pro tags. I do like Sheva, Some of the newer people, not so much.
Oh, well, for me is the original A team, which is Resident Evil crew from Resident Evil 0 and 1, Jill, Barry, Wesker, Chris, and so forth.
I said for females it is Claire and Jill. I said for males it's Leon and Wesker. I really like those characters really a lot.
I like Leon too, but he doesn't stand out to me as much as Chris or the other characters do. Like,
because they're specialists and stars. No.
Yeah, Chris likes to punch a lot of rocks and
Yeah, he likes to get behind Jill while Barry's in front of him.
and you could say his arc is kind of wrapped up, in my opinion. That's what I think.
Chris?
Yeah, the arc, alright.
Yeah, after he killed Wesker, I think that was it for him personally. I don't.
I think Resident Evil 5 should have been the last game, really.
Yeah.
But,
They just couldn't leave it alone.
No.
I don't think Leon had like the big character development as Chris did from his games compared to like 2 and 4 per
I
se.
think that's because Chris got a lot more games.
Yeah, he had more games, but Leon's games were more popular.
Yeah. So I can see that development of Chris had a lot more development because he had a lot more games.
Yeah,
and Leon didn't take roids.
No, well, this is BSSA, man. I think everybody take roids.
Barry can push a freaking helicopter.
I really hate his design in Resident Evil 5. I don't like how they went from Code Veronica to 5, and just that facial change is what really pisses me off.
I like their explanation for that. Apparently, Chris hit the gym hard.
Well, okay, I'll be honest with you. That can't actually happen.
Yeah, but still, holy shit, that is a huge transformation, if any.
I think his arms actually do get bigger
break.
as the. I think his arms do actually get bigger as the game progresses.
Then again, though, he is punching a lot, so.
Yeah, but this man
AX,
punched
AX,
older.
AX, AY. Oh, alright.
I think we need to move on to question 23. So that is.
I left boulders for a living.
Well, there's that. But do you think Capcom should revisit the Resident Evil Survivor series, given how first-person shooters have flourished over the past few years?
No.
The what?
I'll read it again. Do you think Capcom
Survivor.
should revisit Resident Evil Survivor, given how first-person shooters flourished over the past few years?
I had never seen or played them, so
Exactly. I'll opt out of this one.
Yeah, Resident Evil Survivor wasn't it that light gun game that they had, or first-person shooter or something?
Gun Survivor. It started off as a PS1 game that was in first person, and then it basically became what you know as Umbrella Chronicles, where it's basically a light game.
Yeah, it was supposed. Yeah, like the Survivor games were supposed to be rail shooters, but I think there was one. I think with the Resident Evil Survivor games, they turned them into like literally the first person shooters that we see. That it was like Halo and Call of Duty before those games even existed.
But on rails.
Yeah.
And it evolved into the Chronicle series with Darkseid and Umbrella. So, I'm saying, how would you guys feel if they had a first-person Resident Evil off the rails? Do you think that would work? Now, an interesting piece of history before you guys give me your answers. They actually said that Resident Evil initially was going to be a first-person psychological game in development.
Yeah, it's going to be a remake of Sweet Home.
Yeah.
Well, if it's the Unreal games, then I wouldn't mind a third one because they do bring in more interesting canon to the series. So I wouldn't mind another Chronicles game. But that's the only first-person game I'll take.
I know that the what is it? Resident Evil Dead Aim. It's known as Biohazard Gun Survivor 4 in Japan.
Yeah.
Because I think at a certain point, Capcom just kind of did not want the Gun Survivor series, at least by name, be associated with them in the West. And I think that also applied to Dino Crisis because they had a Dino Crisis Gun Survivor series as well. I think Dino Stalker was the Gun Survivor game that they had for that. But to go back on the question, I'm not against it per se, but I personally prefer the other style of Resident Evil games that aren't on rails or first person.
Yeah, I personally wouldn't mind if it's like a side thing.
Yeah. Well, if it's just a Chronicles game, I have no problem with it. But other than that, no.
What else do you guys think on this?
I said opt out on this one, to be honest.
Okay.
I think if they as long as they don't do the Call of Duty thing, it would be fine. But otherwise, stick is like they could basically do it with the Chronicles games, where it was a lot like House of the Dead, but more interactive.
I kind of was thinking
like
of
House
something
of
like
Dead.
Fear. I think something like Fear would be awesome. So we're gonna move on to question 24. How have you felt about Capcom's philosophy on believing that competitive shooters make the most sales, and that they thus adopted this style into their later games?
Well, okay, well, can I go first?
Go ahead.
They're not wrong on competitive shooters being the norm, but it's not right of you to actually adapt that same philosophy.
And here's why. And to add on to that, here's the reason why. The main reason that competitive shooters have flourished is because competitive shooters, they don't really require that you have all that much skill. That sounds harsh for me to say, but really it doesn't. I mean, yeah.
Call of Duty is casual as they come, so I do agree in some extent.
Yeah, cause like when it comes to every Call of Duty game, the only reason that people even win is that they stick to these same gameplay tactics.
Camp.
Exactly. Like if anybody were to see some of Preon's past streams where he was playing Black Ops 3 online, it's like not only do you see people trying to camp from like sniping spots or whatever, you have people camping in rooms just waiting for somebody to pass by and they just shoot.
Yep.
And it's ridiculous.
What do you think on this, Dom?
Like, the thing is that it's kind of going back to the other question we had earlier, where with the action-orientated games, like, I don't mind if there's action-orientated side games, but I think that'd be more of a thing they should have done with Dino Crisis, or just, since we're on this new question and it's not necessarily, or it's not strictly talking about Dino Crisis or Resident Evil, I think it would be better if they just made a new game entirely that didn't have the Resident Evil name on it, but maybe somehow still tied into that universe, but being its own thing at the same time.
Perhaps.
What about you, Levy?
I do agree. They're not wrong, because most competitive shooters actually sell a lot nowadays, but I just don't understand why they're using that to get in the way of what they're known for.
Like many people say, Call of Duty will ruin the gaming industry, and you know what? They're actually correct, because
they're kind of right, but at the same time,
they're aiming for Call of Duty.
There's a thing called tastes. I mean, but they also then again look at Valve. Valve has actually made a lot more money because of their the Steam.
Yep.
I think they're aiming. I mean, I think that is good that they do notice that. Yeah.
At least
this is the hot thing. This could help us out, but at the same time, it's like they have to do something different.
And also not stray away from what made them great in the first place.
Yeah, because that's what's going on with Resident Evil now, is that they're straying away from their roots, and it's not really looking too good. Like now, it's just Resident Evil is being seen as generic third-person shooter centerpiece, and I think that they was known for more than just that.
If they wanted to make a first-person shooter, they could just make a new series or make it Lost Planet. Make Lost Planet better.
Or just give us that Mercenaries only game, man. I mean, plenty of shoot 'em up action could be had just there. And I'm pretty sure that some people would consider that MLG if they really put like verses in there as well. You remember verses?
Yep.
Yep.
I mean, if you just put in the good gameplay mechanics from Resident Evil 6 and Operation Raccoon City, and take the the best things from other Resident Evil games and kind of put that all into one, it would actually sell well, and it would probably do well on its own if you were to market it as a side game.
Yep. Totally in agreement with that.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move on to question number 25. If you can pick a character that should die in the next Resident Evil iteration, which would you choose and why? No more Jill sandwiches.
Alex.
Damn, that Alex choice got chosen quick.
Yeah, I happen to agree. I'm gonna say Alex just because of the fucking bad ending.
I actually want two characters to die. First, I want Alex to die, and then I want Sheva to die. I really don't like Sheva as a character. I think
What?
they really screwed her over.
How dare you hate that Coco ass?
It's yeah, I was about to say it's official. He hates the booty. We have to crucify him.
Oh,
I thought
literally.
for sure- I thought for
I need
sure-
my Asian booty, and that's
Fuck
coming from the Jill sandwich.
no,
and
No wonder he
the
likes
wall.
Ada then.
No. According to a certain member right here, apparently there's no such thing as nice Asian booty.
Let's not get into that, so fuck you.
I call false on that one because I've seen at least a few. That's another story.
Calm down.
That is another story entirely.
Yeah, but I'm all honestly though, I do agree that Alex does deserve to die, and another character. I don't know. Like, it can it be like a main character?
Yes, it can.
Barry.
Really now.
No.
Dude, you'll be igniting the fanboy flames with that.
Hey! There's some instances where the old superstars must die sometime. Like No Country for Old Men, guys.
I will say Wesker, but that already happened.
Yeah, that already happened, but I was gonna say Jill, but then again, I know a lot of people fapped pictures of her.
You
Yeah.
know they were gonna kill Jill at one point.
They will start killing the other characters too.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, Chris, I think that like I said, in the developer diaries for Resident Evil 6, they originally intended it to be him instead of Piers. So I think it should have been Chris. I think that mostly his story is wrapped up, in my opinion.
Yeah, I
Like
agree.
have a go out in a fit of raging glory.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty much.
I know what Claire gonna be ticked off about that.
Even though
Yeah,
even though I kind of like Chris, I think that thread would have been a lot more interesting than Mr. Red Shirt Piers, because you really I mean, they could talk about all they want about that book supposedly acquainting us with him, but at the same time it's like Resident Evil 6 was really his first introduction there, and they just killed him off, and a lot of people did like Piers, so I kind of see that as a low blow either way.
Well, I had a good idea for an ending for Revelations 2. It's like when Barry is trying to get everyone to safety, Alex tries to chase after them, so the only way he could save them is to confront the monster himself, sacrificing himself. That would have been a cool ending, but no!
That would have been ballsy, actually.
He did.
That would have been a
He
ballsy
was
ending.
like, yo, I have this, bitch.
And then all of a sudden, Claire sniped the shit out of that monster.
I actually know, because I think Claire was injured, I believe.
No,
No, Claire's on the helicopter.
she's on the helicopter, and she's the one who kills the monster.
Did I forget? Because it's been a fucking ages.
You
since I played
forgot.
Revelations.
You forgot. Claire,
No,
she kills
But
the
that would
Alex
be
monster.
part of that would be part of the ending. Claire gets injured somehow.
Yeah, I think that'd be a little interesting. It has balls, but Capcom won't do
No,
it.
it's like I can just imagine it's like suck on this motherfucker and then die.
She said something. She said some smart shit like oversee this bitch.
Yeah, oversee this cocksucker.
So we're winding down to the final three questions. And we're on question 26. Name a multiplayer mode that has potential and should be included in future Resident Evil games.
I'm gonna say
Mercenaries.
I'll go half and half with raid mode and mercenaries.
I'm gonna be bold, say Mercenaries and Versus without a doubt. Those two are the only modes I really care
Why
about.
not all just fit all into?
I mean, you can say
bundle
all if you
Mercenaries
want,
game.
but if I wanted like some specifics, it would be Mercenaries and Versus.
I would say Mercenaries. I do prefer the Resident Evil 3 style of Mercenaries. Mercenaries, what it is now, I think I prefer that over Raid mode. Raid mode, the reason why it's not like I don't like it is because it's just grinding. It's not really fun.
Well, then again, I think the people that played RPGs would actually get a kick out of it.
You're right.
Like
And
me.
then, like Ren was saying, versus, but there's a particular mode from Operation Raccoon City that I liked, and it was Heroes mode. And basically, the way that mode works is that you have like these unique characters that you play as, and you have to basically eliminate the other team's quote unquote heroes in order to win.
So basically,
You mean heroes and villains?
So
Yeah.
so you mean the heroes and villains mode from fucking Battlefront?
Yeah, but I think in that game it was actually fun.
What?
Yeah, so I mean, like, if they
I'm
do
talking
something
about
like that,
Battlefront
No, I'm talking
Alright.
about Operation Raccoon City.
2. Fuck that mode. No.
So does
And it just got deadly quiet.
No, I was just thinking about something. Did anyone else have any input on question 26 or?
Like I said, just make a mercenaries game, bundle up the modes, raid mode, versus or whatever, and then voila, got your.
Yeah, why don't you just make one entire spin-off thing, like big multiplayer thing, and it has all of those.
I think that segues into our next question. That's question 27. Do you
Yeah,
think
the-
Capcom should keep continuing making the Mercenary series?
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah, like,
Absolutely.
Oh, I agree. That definitely should be in Resident Evil 7.
Well,
Should
and yeah, I think I'll agree with what Brandon said. It's like, why don't you just like package like all the multiplayer stuff into like one package, like Mercenaries versus Heroes and Villains, if that's what it's called. What was it
It's
called?
just
again?
called Heroes mode.
Yeah,
They-
Heroes mode. Just anything else, right? All of that. Put that all into
They-
one big package, and you don't charge a shitload of money. You just charge like $30.
What were you saying,
and
Brian?
then, yeah,
I'm sorry,
I was gonna say like they should definitely do it, but they should make like they should do something where it's like you said, do the heroes mode to it, do something similar to raid mode, or even do like a arcade style ladder thing where it's like instead of doing it where it's just like there's different enemies per stage up until you reach the boss of the game. If anything, it's like do a boss mode, but do it like arcade style, where it's like you have a stage, you fight the boss on it, you can gather up items to use during that stage, but when it gets to the next boss fight, start with your health full again, and then you had to go back and look for the items again. And it's like increase the difficulty of each boss fight.
I just had an idea what they could do. Who here has played I think Hyrule Warriors or Dragon Quest Heroes,
I played Dragon Quest.
or seen any of them?
I played and
Yeah,
I
like
played
here's what I'm thinking. Kind of have like that, have like all the zombies in like one big map, and then in the middle of it you put like a boss, like one of the boss things in it, and you
That would
have to
be
kill it.
insane.
Like they'll drop ammunition, they'll drop healing items, what have you. So do something like that for a Mercenaries one.
that would be a hype.
Yeah.
Play any
It
character.
depends on how big the maps are.
Yeah, exactly.
I
That's what another thing. That's going to be the drawback is how big the maps are going to be. That way,
Like bigger maps,
Dom.
man.
That way, Dom can look at that Asian ass and I think I'll stick with the chocolate fever that I have inside of me.
Alright,
I'll
I
stick to
think
my-
I think any expansion to making the maps good and dynamic would be nice. Even if there was some area of effect stuff going on in Mercenaries, I think that'd be definitely good. Co-op Mercenaries, dual Mercenaries, always fun.
Yeah, just make that all the online stuff or all the multiplayer stuff into one big package for $30, and if you decide to use a season pass that has all the DLC, put that for like $30 or $20, $30 or $40,
Well,
and that
just
way.
put all that into the whole game instead of nickel and diming for DLC.
Well, then again, they're gonna
Um,
do season passes because you know how the industry works nowadays.
Yeah, I know. Still, it would be
But
nice
yeah,
to have
that's
as a
what
full
she's thinking.
package because there's still developers that do full package games.
Just briefly before we move on, I wanted to say that like one thing that I really hated about Revelations 1 and 2 is that they didn't try to take back any maps from or locations from previous Resident Evil games and put them into a raid mode, and especially Revelations 2 because they had that quote unquote throwback map stage for raid mode, and all it was just a few Resident Evil 6 stages.
And Revelations 1.
Yeah, and Revelations 1. Like, why didn't we get to see any, like, classic Resident Evil stages, or even Resident Evil 4 and 5? Like, I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, I think flashback stages will also be good, because they had a lot of them in raid mode for Revelations 2, so... even though a lot of those maps came from Resident Evil 6, I would like to see flashback maps from the entire series. Like, imagine running around on the Epileptic Express from Resident Evil 0. That'd be pretty nice.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's move on to our final question, which is another doozy. And that's question 28. How do you feel about the Resident Evil live-action movies?
The reason why I asked that question was because it's Resident Evil. You know they're gonna make a fucking film adaptation.
Well, since we're at it though, have you heard the horror stories about it?
I heard that a fucking stuntman died in the filming of the last one, and the stunt woman has an amputee and also suffered from injuries from it.
I'm gonna have to say that is so fucked up. Like the
Yeah,
stuff that I'm hearing,
and then she says that she's glad to be alive.
but the stuff that I'm hearing is that apparently, like you said, the stunt woman, she had her arm amputated or whatever.
No, I think it was like a part of her hand got amputated.
No, it was actually a multitude
Her
of
arm.
injuries, but
It was her
still,
arm.
one of the crewmen that died. Apparently, once he died, they all blocked his wife on WhatsApp when she was asking what was going on. Like they all tried to block it out. I just think that that's fucked up. Like her husband died. Give the woman the
come out.
decency.
Yeah, just come out and fucking say that we're sorry for your loss. Your husband died. We'll pay for the funeral and all that.
Yeah,
no,
give the woman the
instead, oh,
decency.
we're gonna hide the fact that your husband died, and we're just gonna not tell you
How
until
can
the
they
end of
do that though? That's a question right there.
I
Yeah,
don't
no, you
understand. Like, give the woman the decency to tell her that like her husband's dead. Like,
Yeah, and if
accept
they
the
have
responsibility.
And if they have children, let them know too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do want to talk about just again briefly because I know we're running short on time, but did you all know that George Romero is actually going to work on a Resident Evil movie, but somebody from Capcom said no, that it was scary, and no, they wanted to go for a more action-oriented movie.
I always knew about that. Yeah.
I actually didn't, truth be told.
And the Japanese trailer for Resident Evil 2 was done by George Romero, and it looks fucking awesome for something out of the 90s.
Oh yeah.
But
But of course, Capcom started screwing the pooch as early as God knows how long. But
and started saying that's too scary. Kids won't like that.
it's like ain't no kids going to see this.
Yeah,
damn
it's
movie.
rated R. But you
If your
know how
parents
some
want to see it, they're idiots.
But you know there's going to be some dumbass parents nowadays taking their kids to an R-rated movie.
Exactly.
Like it's one thing if it's kids seeing it with like an older relative, like a cousin or brother or sister or whatever.
Yeah, that's one
But-
thing. But nowadays, I've actually seen people parents bring their fucking little kids to an R-rated movie, and you know what I fucking hear all the time? Mommy, what is that dad doing? What is that kid doing to that other kid? Mommy, what is that man doing to that woman? It's like, shut the fuck up.
I had to kind of deal with that the other day.
I deal
when
with it
was
at my
watching
work.
Star Wars.
Trust me, I deal with it at my work too. Some kids screaming and the parents not doing jack shit.
Alright, well, Levy airs out his personal problems.
I'm sorry, but anyways, back to the Resident Evil movies. First one was they're with me, but I think they should have stopped at a certain number.
I hate it too with a
Like
passion.
here's the big thing about it. And granted, some of what I'm about to say is also some of what some other people feel, but when you look at the first movie was actually all right because it at least had some elements from the first Resident Evil game where it was like there's a big mystery that went on about people dying and what happened. Granted, it wasn't, was it Alpha Squad from from stars, but they sent in somebody to investigate. And at first, it starts out as some morbid curiosity, then it becomes a mission for survival, and it made sense. And it was like, at the very least, Mila Jovovich's character, she may not have been the smartest or even the most skilled in the movie, but it was like, at the very least, she didn't do nothing that was decidedly stupid. Now, second movie is where it kind of went crazy because, once again, because first of all, the scientists with Umbrella decided to open the thing up, even knowing that it had to be shut because the virus got out. And then number two, closing off, like, basically Umbrella was sadistic, sure, but then it was like, they're gonna send in Nemesis in a city full of zombies and still living people, and somehow with Alice being there, she's every bit as strong as Nemesis. And it was like the Jill cameo, the actress they had, she as an actress she did all right. It was the way they wrote Jill that made it bad.
I hate what it did
A
to Jill.
lot of stuff in that movie didn't make sense. Apparently, considering how strong Nemesis is, you have Alice that beats him literally in nanoseconds.
Yeah,
That's stupid.
The stuff was very stupid.
No. It's like, did they even play the source material?
And what made
Okay,
it worse is that
it'd be
she had a
one-
love story with the fucking Nemesis.
Oh,
Now, it'd be one thing. It was like how they did with Wesker, because Wesker is capable of taking out a tyrant, which is obvious.
Wesker's the
if you
president now.
and
It makes no
like-
sense.
what
in a ruined world.
Like, because I know Paul W.S. Anderson, him and Mila like to say that they play the games and that they're fans. Well, if you were fans, wouldn't you try to make them more like the games? I understand if you're not trying to, if you're trying to make an original story from that, but wouldn't you at least try to respect the source material and try to be a little bit more like it,
Well,
i.e.,
Don't
or
forget.
and whatnot.
Well, then again, most people nowadays don't seem to respect the source material. I mean, look at the Max. I know it has to do with a video game movie adaptation. Look at Max Payne. They didn't respect that at all.
You know the reason why they didn't respect that is because they didn't let Marvel work on it.
Marvel?
Because
Max Payne?
I mean, not Max Payne.
You mean Remedy?
Thank you.
Yeah, Remedy.
Marvel,
They
what the heck?
didn't help. Yeah, Marvel.
I got to confuse with
It's
something
okay.
else. For a
Yeah,
second.
they didn't let Remedy, the people behind it, take it, like, help out with it. Instead, it's like, oh no, this is how it really happened.
No, and they got John Moore, which is not a good director to be honest, but like I
The
said,
guy who did A Good Day to Die Hard.
yeah, anyone else with a lick of fucking directorial debuts and credits under their belt would be a better director than that.
You know the funny thing is, Capcom actually, the way I understand it, Capcom had a hand in at least helping with some of the direction of the Resident Evil films. But then it's like, it must not have been much help because the way the movies went, like, I get it. Doing the whole post-apocalyptic thing for the whole world, it made sense. But, the cameos for the movies, like, who they got to play certain characters, they did a pretty good job with. But then it's like, when you look at the rest of the plot, or how they try and shoehorn some of the scenes from the games into the movies, like in Resident Evil 2, where they had Alice do the thing where she drops the gun only to catch it and shoot folks, or the fight scene between Chris Sheva and Wesker that they tried to do in Afterlife. Oh my god.
I think that Capcom's influence is minimal, as they said before. They said in the past that they supervise some things, they produce some things here or there, but other than that, the director and Mila Jovovich has full reign of what they do in the movies. They really don't care about anything else. I think that's the problem. I think that if the game developers had a lot more influence in the movie and what is put into it, I think it'd be pretty cool because we'd be seeing a lot more stuff close to the source material but put on screen that they could change or alter and actually make relevant.
And that's the funny thing when you think about it, because it's like if there are actually people from the company that made the original stuff there, it would have made sense. Because like when you look at the first Mortal Kombat movie, it was like they kept that as close to the original as possible. It wasn't exactly the way it was in the original games, but they still made it work.
All right, I'm back.
Yeah, second movie was crap, but they still made the first one work.
That's ironic, considering that Paul Anderson did that movie. Oh my god!
You know, oh god.
Oh, I was gonna say, and then it's like you look at the Street Fighter movies, it was the same. Like when you look at like when you look at the second Mortal Kombat movie,
For me, it was too.
Yeah, you look at the second Mortal Kombat movie, you look at the live action Street Fighter movies, and then you look at the live action Tekken movies, and you get the live action Resident Evil movies. The best way to describe those movies are fan fictions that go horribly wrong.
Yeah.
Oh wait, wrong topic.
Just to kind of go off of that, I know that there was at one point supposed to be a Resident Evil live action TV show, and it was actually supposed to be closer to the games. It was not going to be in canon with the Resident Evil movies, the live action ones. It was going to be closer to the games. It was going to lead up to the mansion incident. It was going to lead up into the outbreak in Raccoon City and whatnot. And the only thing that we heard was that it was going to be called Arclight, and nothing really happened with it afterwards.
Probably because either the producers or whoever thought it was like, nah, we got the movies. Fans will love the movies.
They actually have a TV show in the works that's going to be canon to the movies, so.
If it explains the cameos for the movies, then sure. Because here's something that forever kills me. So, Resident Evil Apocalypse, there's a point where when Jill is basically shown getting ready to go out into the city to help people, there's like a newspaper clipping where it says she was suspended from the force and her partner Leon S. Kennedy died. Why do we see Leon in Retribution if he's supposed to be dead?
Plot hole. They obvious that it has to be a plot hole. They didn't explain that either too well, or someone faked their death. There's some shit going on there that they didn't explain.
Something's fishy about it, and it sucks.
Plot hole.
And it's like if they actually handle the movies the way Marvel handles their movies, it's like even though Marvel is fairly close to the comic books, but not entirely when it comes to movies, they still make it as close as possible.
What Marvel?
Well,
but it's like,
this is what he's talking. He's talking about the MCU. This is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yeah. It is a lot more organized with the references.
Well, that's the thing, though. They actually plan this out years in advance.
Yeah,
that's why it's hard.
But Capcom could have took some inspiration and actually did this as well. Like, these people are now messing up our live action movies. How about we take it in house and see what we do, and we just use Degeneration and Damnation as a test bed, and we get our stuff together. So now we have a production team working on these live action movies, getting them together, making them really good, and they can tie in with other things as a production. I think that would have benefited them more, as opposed to saying, well, Paul W.S. Anderson can shit all over on our product because we don't care anymore. We just let him do what he wants, and Wesker's gonna eat Alice, and Wesker's the president, and Nemesis is a.
wait. Oh, you said
baby.
Wesker eat Alice? You mean eat out Alice?
No. Okay.
Get out of here. You know what? You know what, Brendan? You know what?
No. That's gonna be wrong because everyone knows it's a Jill sandwich.
No. You know what, Levy? You get kicked from the call. You made it worse.
Ren, to go off what you were saying, I would say
What
that
the hell?
Yeah, that's what you get, fucker.
to go off of what you were saying, and to kind of just backtrack a little bit, like the George Romero script is still written. It's a thing. You know, why don't they just go back to that particular script and use it?
I don't think they will. I think that they're confident in going with this garbage that Paul created. So I don't think that they're going to go back. And at this point, it's probably going to be some sour grapes with Romero as well, if you think about it, because you know that might not have ended well at all, according to them. Like, he wanted to do it, and then they just went on and got this guy instead. So there might be some sour grapes there.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like we're done with the final question of the night. Levy got kicked out of the call, which is always great.
I'm right here.
So we're gonna sign off and do our outros. So, Brandon, where can we find you, man?
You can find me at Hurricane Magic 514. And of course, you can catch all of us here, except for Dom, on the TCP. And you can always catch me, Dom, and sometimes Ren on the Bio Devils podcast. And well, that's it.
Cool. So
I love how you're like getting angry as you were saying that.
because you were saying some weird shit, and
I said speak up, please.
Well, speaking of Mr. Weirdo, Levy, give us your outro.
You can find me on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook.
Twitcher.
I've been playing The Witcher lately. Fuck off.
Water.
You can find me on PSN, Xbox Live, Wii U.
EU.
Brazzers.com.
You can also find me on Xvideo. I make videos there too.
Oh God.
Disregard the last part. I don't make videos there. Red does, but
He's actually lying to you. Makes it with his panda.
Fuck off.
Hey, I didn't say it.
Give us your outro, fucker.
I already did.
You didn't say your name.
I don't need to.
Alright, you can find him at Levy the Amish Man, Levy the Amish Twat.
The Amish Twat? What?
Yes. You can find him there
slang.
on X videos, having sex with hamburgers, so
That's so tedious, motherfucker.
That's DSP, man.
we're gonna move on to Dominic. Where can we find you, man?
You guys can find me on YouTube, Google Plus, and on Twitter as BioDevilDom. And on Twitch, you can find me as Dom241996. Also on AskFM, you can follow me as BioDevilDom there as well.
Alright, and Brian, where can we find you, man?
At the dictionary.
Mr. Word.
Yeah, on urbandictionary.com.
On that note, y'all can usually find me on Twitter or Facebook as Brian Word. My profile pics are all the same, so everybody knows what I look like. And gaming wise, you can usually find me on Twitch or Hitbox. I'm not streaming just yet, but I'm Silver Angel 627. So anytime y'all want to hit me up, try that. And PSN and Xbox Live are Silver Angel 627. If anyone would like any thoughts on any writing or just my thoughts on something in general, feel free to hit me up. I will always give a word.
Or a dictionary.
I was about to say, I like how that segued into a pun.
Of course it did.
My last name just makes it work no matter what.
God damn it.
I almost thought you said your last name gives it a word, but
Oh, punny are we?
yeah.
Stop.
I think we need to.
Terrible, just terrible.
I think I need to segue into my outro. You can find me on YouTube at Renegade Operative. You can find me sometimes on the Bio Devils podcast. I think that the end of the year one was the last one, so I'll definitely be
Last one for 2015, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll definitely be on the one for next year. You can find me on TCP podcast, which is going to be next year. I'll be hanging around. You can find me on Twitter at Operative Ren. It was good having this discussion, and as always, if
Team
the guest
Confess.
wants to get a word in edgewise, now's the chance.
You can actually.
Go play some Resident Evil. Do
Play
it.
a good game.
Remember, don't drink bleach.
Dude, really?
Don't drink in game.